Hey there. I would like to open this with a reminder that we will be at the Midwest Gaming Classic this coming April of 2020, specifically April the 4th and 5th. That takes place in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it's always a really good time. So go to MidwestGamingClassic.com to see what is involved there. We're going to have a table, and we're going to be joining Retronauts on their panel. Yeah. We would love to see you there. Once again, April 4th and 5th, MidwestGamingClassic.com.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs Dispatch, first one of 2020, baby.
Welcome. It's January.
It is so January, and this January has gone by fast for me.
It keeps on going. As a percentage of your life, every single day gets to be a smaller amount.
Yeah. Older than you've ever been.
Mm-hmm.
I got a salad in the fridge that expires today.
Ooh.
So it's already January 20th. When I bought this salad, I was like, January 20th is so far away.
Yeah.
But in fact, it crept upon me like a salad rotting in a fridge.
Yeah.
You know?
Slowly turning into slime like the rest of me.
Yeah. And then it's just like a bag of slime, and that has its uses. But
if you want to thwart the wet bandits,
I could create like some kind of like cool slip and slide or some kind of double dare ass course for Pocket.
Yeah.
There's things I could do with that bag of slime, but it's not as delicious as a salad. Yeah. That's the real point we're trying to get across in this episode.
Yes. The thing that has changed my refrigerator game, Gary, is Rubbermaid Fresh Savers.
What the fuck's a Rubbermaid Fresh Saver?
It is a special kind of like Tupperware container that has like vents and stuff in it to let the gas that rots fruits and vegetables out of it. It's like a one-way valve vent kind of thing, and it keeps your produce fresh for like spooky long.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like
that's cool.
Yeah, I've got a couple of different sizes of those, and it's like performing spinach necromancy. That's
great because spinach, I just buy a bag of spinach, just chip clip it, and it stays good for a while.
Yeah.
But, sort of that's a big thing that, I would buy more vegetables if I didn't, I don't have a car. Yeah. Going to the grocery store is kind of a pain in the dick.
Mm-hmm.
That fresh thing. But, here's a weird thing. A lot of times I go to the grocery store, I'll buy a single sweet potato.
Okay.
And I look them over because I look over produce.
Mm-hmm.
I have a sweet potato I got home that looks all the world like someone took a bite out of it and then that bite healed.
Ooh.
It's really amazing. I don't know if I can still eat it. I don't know what's going on with the sweet potato. But I swore I looked at it. It's like somebody did like some sleight of hand to switch the sweet potato for like a dud sweet potato or like one that's full of, eggs. Or something like that,
right.
To try to sneak them, launder them into my house.
I mean, you can do like you do with any potato, just cut off the unsightly part. That's
yeah. I'm just trying to decide if I'm too in my head about it.
Maybe. I mean, is the skin contiguous?
Well, kind of, except it healed over, so it looks like someone took a bite out of it, and then the part where the bite looks like potato skin, but it's all rough and scraggly.
Oh, weird.
It's extremely weird, and I know I looked at that fucking potato. I just I always do that,
Mm-hmm.
I have the surety where I don't remember specifically looking at it, but it's so part of my habit, not just of potatoes, but picking up a thing and looking at it.
Oh, of course.
It's a thing I've been doing my whole life.
I only started doing it recently.
Yeah, I'm not new at this. So I don't know, man. It's just speaking of produce.
Yeah.
So that's basically what this show is.
So it's basically produce pro tips.
Yep.
No, so so starting our second year of doing dispatch episodes, where we've got the usual kind of thing. We are doing your questions and prompts. We've got your topic suggestion. We're going to then read your responses to January's games and then announce the games for March.
Indeed.
Yeah.
If you want to ask us a question, the way you do so is by being a patron. If you go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv, that is how you get into that ecosystem. Yeah. That's about it. So let's get started here.
Let's do it.
I'll read this question from John here. I'm interested in your thoughts on enemy design, the relationship of a great enemy concept might have on a level, narrative, or avatar abilities. Can a lack of memorable enemies harm a game? And are there games that you remember primarily for a top-notch bestiary? And lastly, what is your all-time favorite non-boss monster or enemy from a game? Yeah, that's a big question, very wide. Just kind of in a general sense, like very, of course, like a good example of this, and we have a real recency bias on this show. I think that we bring up things that are we've done recently, and I think that makes sense, right? But it's good for listeners too. Blasphemous did this all the time. Like an area would be like, oh, this is the ladder area, and it is based around enemies that move back and forth horizontally as to provide a hazard on a ladder, and enemies that throw boomerangs at you to knock you off of ladders.
Yeah.
So that they definitely play into level design pretty obviously.
Yeah. Just like everything else, there needs to be integration, right? Like you have these elements, they need to share a screen, they need to share a play space, they have to work together.
Yes. And then like narrative or avatar ability wise, like good examples of that would be like old NES games. So like in Mega Man, Airman stage. The enemies, we have these like crazy floating platforms with horns that come out of the sides. That are kind of like enemies or hazards that are also floating cloud people. Fit into the narrative, quote unquote, of that game, or at least like the level theming. And then you have the enemies that kind of float at you slowly and make a beeline, which when Mega Man can only shoot left and right, is made specifically to be a challenge to the avatar abilities of that. Like you have to kind of do a jump attack.
Airman stage is such a standout because that entire thing is about rhythm and phase. Just between the horns on those devil heads and the platforms that move kind of on those pre-laid tracks. Like you have enemies that come in and kind of provide this randomness that can just like knock you out of phase and you miss your chances.
Bubble Man's another good example of like the same kind of thing. As far as games with like super good bestiaries, it's probably at this point it's like 10% of my affection for Final Fantasy.
Like that rogues gallery, the recurring enemies that pop up. Like I don't know, like just any game with a cactuar in it. I think as far as like RPG, JRPG iconic enemy sets, I think it's got handily has the win. I like it more than the Dragon Quest enemies, which I also like, but got nothing on a cactuar. Like Dragon Quest has the slime as like the iconic one that comes around, and then like a couple of different things that do feel a bit more generic, even if they their golems and stuff are
I recognize them, but they're just not that exciting.
Right.
Like it's all downhill after the slime.
Well,
and I was like, am I going to get really excited about a Draki? Fuck no.
I'm going to get really excited about like a Tonberry because I know what kind of encounter that is going to be. A behemoth, stuff like that. Cool. I think that like something that can bring a game down is if it doesn't have good enemy variety. And and it feels like it should. It's a really big thing, like see, again, recency bias, but like see Alan Wake, right? Like there's like 3 different types of enemies in that game and it becomes a horrible slog because that game has one type of encounter, so like the way that, so they definitely intersect, right? Like level design, encounter design, and enemy design, like it's just part of the building block. And any one of those elements not having sufficient variety will feel bad. And enemies are, only having a couple different types of enemies is a big, pretty common, bugbear, not just on this show, but in general, like Hellblade. I don't know, like there's like a lot of games where like I just feel like there just weren't enough things to fight. Dusk, speaking of recency bias, has an amazing bestiary in it.
Great bestiary and great variety. They're still introducing new enemies, well into the 3rd episode.
Yeah.
Like when they start introducing the flying enemies and stuff. They all take kind of like different approaches.
Mm-hmm.
And then
as far as like favorite all-time non-boss monsters in games, Crimson Heads from the remakes.
No,
not just for fighting them, because they don't behave that differently than say hunters, but for what they do to the structure and tension of that game. I think that the remake would still be good, but it would be a much lesser work without the idea that old zombies could get up and run at you at any time.
And my standard answer for this is always Chaos Eaters from Dark Souls 1.
Yeah.
Which I love the design on. I love that they're so rare.
Love those dipshits.
Yeah, and I love that they make that little noise as they get close to them, and I think that's a brilliant little piece of sound design.
That's so good.
So
let's see here. Alexander writes, so this question here starts out with some thoughts about loving Fallout New Vegas and how they picked up the Outer Worlds on day one and were really disappointed with it. They continue, sure, New Vegas has plenty of problems, but there is something about the messiness of that game that crafted an air of mystery that made me want to endlessly plunder the possibilities of its various ramshackle systems. Anyway, the point of the discussion I want to put forward was the instances where a game studio with a great reputation for making a certain type of game becomes too self-aware of that reputation and perhaps plays it too safe or tries to perfect a formula by smoothing down and streamlining something that should have remained a beautifully mysterious rough diamond. I'm going to get the obvious one out of the way here. That's something that From is kind of constantly doing. It's been a little bit of the story of From since they captured lightning in a bottle with demon souls.
Yeah, I would agree. That's a great example of that. Just that feeling of like it no longer, still like those games.
Yeah,
it's just they're the little in their zone. For me. I don't. It's interesting to think about that. Like that's something that like I think that when I eventually dive into the Outer Worlds, I might end up feeling that way. I haven't gotten there yet. I have not fully dove in just because of life.
Right.
Just being too busy to play a really long RPG for pleasure. That isn't just like endless runs of Darkest Night. Like they can't play in bed.
Right.
But yeah, I think who else plays it safe? Like up until Breath of the Wild, that was a big problem I had with Zelda.
Yeah.
It just like those games, or actually be up until Link Between Worlds, which is when they broke out of that, and it's a better game than Breath of the Wild.
I love A Link Between Worlds so goddamn much.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah,
it's really good. But it's so, and that's something that Nintendo has a reputation for that I think they rightly have.
Yeah, no,
a reputation for, and even when they break out of that reputation, it's Breath of the Wild, which is a really good game, is interesting because it apes it kind of like is Nintendo catching up to modern game trends from other studios almost.
Yeah.
Whereas other times when they break out, like you get like Mario Odyssey, which is a game I liked a lot, but didn't feel fresh. Like it was just, here's a Mario-ass Mario game that's a little bit more like Sunshine or 64 than the most recent ones. So I think that they have an issue with that.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Agreed.
Alicia asks, I'm sorry, not Alicia. Yeah. Oh yes, Alicia. Kind of talks about not having tons of money, to buy games initially, but had friends who would lend them things, gave them hand-me-downs, which allowed her to play things like Bioshock Infinite well after kind of the zeitgeist and having that different experience. Goes on to ask, have you ever played a game out of its moment like that, and did it affect your experience? I guess on some level retro gaming is that, but also I think there's a bigger part of the retro gaming that is the contemporary experience of it. So basically, like, how does playing a game out of its not being part of the discussion, out of its zeitgeist, how does that change the experience of playing a game?
We did something like this as a discussion prompt on the level here a few months ago, but like, what game did you basically what game were you late to the party for? And my answer for that was Yakuza. Kind of like the huge, long-running, beloved series that I only came to because we started covering it for the show, and I guess the version of it that I had in my head based on the reputation that it's gotten is way different than what it actually was at the start. I was not expecting it to be like a really cool crime drama. Yeah.
I think that lots of games I get to like this because I don't get horny for things. Like, it's very rare that I want to pre-order something, and it's very rare that I'm playing something that just came out.
Right.
You know, their exceptions are more, you know, like Resident Evil, new Resident Evil games, you know, new FromSoft games. Like, that's almost it.
Right.
Everything else I will always wait until after the discussion. And generally, I think the effect is kind of a chilling one because a lot of times people, you know, go apeshit over the new hotness. You know, that's a real games thing. Like, people cannot, you know, oh my God, this is the best game ever when a game comes out. And then opinion cools on it a little bit. And like, also that combined with the fact that I'm not somebody who tends to be like super impressed with polish and like, you know, prettiness.
Yeah.
Means that like a lot of times I just kind of find myself being like, this was the thing that everyone fucking said was game of the century.
Better than God.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, so that was my experience with the Dragon Quest Inquisition, which I came to after, you know, the shine had fallen off that, and I do not like that game. You know, and then sometimes for good games, like there'll be games like I know I will love that I end up coming to after the discussion almost for the opposite reason. Like, I have not started playing Disco Elysium yet. I know I'll like it. It's just I want to not be part of that discussion, really. I kind of want to just have a pure relationship with the game, and not have it, you know, be this collaborative community thing because I'm a weird insular like dickhead.
So,
you know,
I think this changes depending on how much you pay attention to what other people are saying and like whether or not you consume publicly, right?
Yes.
You know, like just I'm positive there has been backlash to Disco Elysium. It was a popular game.
I haven't seen it yet. It's kind of amazing. You know, but
I don't know. Just it's more of an annoyance thing. Like, I don't know. It's something that's great about being off Twitter.
Yeah.
You know, or using Twitter as a write-only medium.
Every once in a while, I also get a really great experience of waiting to be out of the discourse, and then I get to be like the necromancer who brings back discussion of something, and that can be fun. Like so I knew I would love Divinity Original Sin 2, and then I didn't play it for like a year and a half after it came out,
right?
And then I got to like be like, fuck, dude, like this is exactly as good as I thought it would be. This is incredible. And then talk about it in a lot of stuff. And then a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I never got to that either. And then jumped in and kind of create like a mini discourse, you know, which is kind of fun, like a little like third wave, you know, and that ended up being fun, and not having kind of those expectations that not being part of that discussion probably helped me appreciate it in like a way that the word I'm looking at, like that comes to mind is pure, but that sounds like a bullshit word that doesn't mean anything.
Right.
You know, but just it's kind of a more pure experience.
Yeah, you have your own reaction to it as opposed to something that you are bracing for in some way or another. Yeah.
Or there's the meta concerns of like, I'm playing this with, you know, like if I was playing Disco Elysium when it was contemporary, I talk about games with Will. Will was playing that. It's one of his favorite games like the last 10 years. He loves it. I would just have that feeling of like the plus side of that coin is that it feels really good when you like, oh man, did you see this? The bad kind is that when you are experiencing an emotion about something and you kind of like check it versus your friend's reactions. Like couch it, you know, or whatever, or just kind of like, you know, being really excited about something and then having your friend just be like, that didn't really work for me. And then
like
having
no sell.
Getting no sold on something. Not that Will, I'm just using Will as an example because of that game. You know, he's not like bad at this or anything, but having that feeling of, you know, having your enthusiasm tempered at all is something that only can be part of the discussion. And like avoiding that, I think is not a bad thing. Like, you know, it's a double-edged sword, and not wanting to have the negative edge because you don't care enough about the positive edge, I think is fine. It's
like, it's also weirdly like the kind of spoiler that bugs me, where like if I gush about something, so say I'm halfway through a game and I'm talking to somebody who has played the game and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, moment X, Y, or Z, and somebody says, oh yeah, it doesn't get any better than that. Like it's all done over there. Like,
that's a bad feeling.
Well, fuck, man.
That's really, it's funny. Like, I mean, it'd be a good topics thing at some point to talk about spoilers. Like in general, because that's such an interesting thing. And like, we talked about this before, but like one of my pet peeve for spoilers is when I say, don't tell me anything about this. And someone says, okay, but I know you're going to love the part that's
no exceptions.
Like it doesn't, you know, like, yes, you're gleaning a little bit of excitement that you get from like experiencing something with somebody else, somebody else's behalf. That's like a sweet, good feeling. But also, I just don't want to know.
Nope.
Like I know I'll dig the ashtray maze. Leave me alone. Like I'll play it eventually. I don't know. I'm grumpy and old.
Yeah. I think that is what this show is actually about.
Yeah. Whereas we're aging into the Jeremy Parish curmudgeon, phase of just kind of saying that we're grumpy every other episode.
Yeah, but he does that. He doesn't necessarily do that, but like I don't know. I think that ultimately it all comes back to like things are only bad when other people are talking.
Yeah.
Just the only thing, like the thing that gets under my skin is other people's behavior.
Yeah. Yep. There's Jeremy Greer like posted it was like some like on Twitter. He's like, some of you keep posting on this website and it shows. Pretty good tweet.
God, yeah. I saw an amazing tweet. This is just like on a something awful thread or something where just the like post good tweets or whatever. Like somebody said, "Welcome to Twitter. Someone who doesn't understand humor will be here eventually.
We'll
be with you shortly."
Yeah,
and then like really the first response is, "Well, actually, humor is context sensitive."
Yeah, and even if that person was trying to say on the joke, it sucks ass. Yeah, like it still sucks.
Yeah, you're still illustrating it.
Don't be that person.
Yeah, please.
Does that. Anywho, let's not get into the weeds about complaining about internet, as is our
want. We have a whole show for that. Casey writes, what do you think about the get better at a skill by doing it approach to skill levels versus earning generic experience from all actions? The former always seems so realistic and appealing, but I can't think of examples where it works without resulting in a very immersion-breaking behavior, attacking your own party members in Final Fantasy II, jumping everywhere in Morrowind, etc. Growing up, I played a subscription-based MUD, multi-user dungeon. It's actually still running. That used a learn-by-doing model. In a game that sold itself as an immersive role-playing environment, everyone constantly ran around humming songs, braiding grass, etc. to train the associated skills rather than, playing the game. I think this experience with the mechanic left a permanent bad taste in my mouth. Yeah, I don't know where I picked this up, but I call this Lamarckian leveling.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think I'm basically on the same page as Casey.
Yeah,
like I like the idea of that, but I don't know when it works. It kind of works in Tyranny. Like you do a subterfuge check and your subterfuge goes up.
Yep.
But it's not emphasized very much, and that kind of makes it work. But it's silly in all of the Elder Scrolls games. Like you're either jumping everywhere in Morrowind or you're blacksmithing for days in Skyrim.
Yeah.
It's you can't do. Like when you want realism to be in a game, you have to account for gamers. So you have to make this like version of realism that feels a little bit more real.
Yeah.
Because gamers are always going to want level ups. They're always going to want optimization. Like you're never going to be able to entrance a gamer to do something that does not make their avatar more optimal.
Right.
And that is what you're running into here with people attacking their own party members and at Final Fantasy 2 and all that shit. So I agree. Like it's a cool idea, but yeah, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's really hard to think of a good example, where it is sold as like a feature of a thing and it doesn't just break down to be a real slog.
It works, like the reason why it works in Tyranny is because you don't have unlimited opportunities for anything that you're training a skill in.
Yeah.
That's what breaks it. Is like if you can choose to do a thing to practice the skill as opposed to play the game, then you will.
Yeah. No, just like you're thinking about playing EverQuest, which had a very similar kind of model for a bunch of different things. And like before they actually just kind of built in a cartography system in order to figure out which direction you were facing, you had to like type a command or press a macro to like sense heading. And if your sense heading was low, it would just either tell you don't know, or it would show you the wrong thing. So you would just be like, as you're running, sense heading, in order to train that up. Same thing with like certain servers, language skills were like that. So if your skill in a language was low, everything would come through as gibberish, and all that led to was like places where people would sit and spam text to each other in order to raise their language skills, which I guess is basically the same thing as taking a Spanish class.
Like practicing, practicing a language, yeah. But except that you're not actually learning anything.
Right. You're just making a number bigger.
Yeah, it's pretending to do a thing like that. So yeah, I think that stuff is lame.
Yeah. Just attractive nuisances for degenerate play. Right?
Yeah, even though like I like individual games that have that. Mm-hmm. Like I like all the Elder Scroll games I've played, just with a gabillion caveats.
Yeah,
just like 1,000 things about them that are bad that I like them in spite of. Mm-hmm. So, Marcus says, "What dead or dormant game series would you like to revive or remake? Similarly, what remakes or revitalizations have let you down?" My answer for both of these is Tony Hawk.
Yep.
The Tony Hawk HD sucks ass.
Yeah.
I would love a new Tony Hawk game. I just want that series to be curated.
Yeah.
Don't even give me a new Tony Hawk game. Give me a little mini console in the size of a skateboard or the shape of a skateboard that I plug into my TV that plays Tony Hawk 1 through 8.
Yep.
And I'll be in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So.
No, that is a really good answer. All of my answers for like the first one would be, how about this? I would like a Thief game, like a good Thief game.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I still haven't played Thief 2014, but I have it.
Yeah.
And like someday I will, because it seems like the kind of thing I would eke some joy out of.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, like a Thief game. I don't know, like Medieval Thief Simulator is basically what I want.
Oh yeah.
But in that world, with the clockwork and stuff. Weird answer for this, a remake or revitalization that let me down. I really like the original Wild Arms. Like, I'm positive the combat would grate on me now, but like, I love that world. And just that setting and music is cool. Wild Arms Alter Code F was a real bummer for me.
Alter Code F.
Yeah, they were on some Kingdom Hearts shit.
Okay.
But that was the PS2 remake of the first one, and it's not good. It was a real bummer.
I don't know how controversial opinion is that the PS2 is the worst generation for JRPGs.
Yeah.
Like there are good games in that generation, but everything was a loading time nightmare.
Yeah.
Like I'm not surprised that for sure. So, yeah, good answers.
That's my answer. Let's see here. Kellerack writes, lately, I've been getting more and more into fighting games after mostly ignoring them. I initially figured that it would be too much of a time sink to try and master the inputs and mechanics of each game and was scared off because of it, but with some help from friends, I managed to understand the intricacies of a variety of fighting games and have a newfound appreciation for them. Are there any games or genres of games you initially were turned off from but managed to get an appreciation or fondness for later on?
Like sort of. I like, I did not think that I would like truck simulator type games. Like I eventually figured out, I like those. Now I think those are fun and have like a place.
Yeah.
For me. And then the other answer being, like rogue likes, not road lights, rogue lights, but like actual like games that use rogue mechanics. So like Sharing the Wander, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then when I say initially turned off, it was like I was young.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. And now like I have deeply internalized those kind of rhythms and really like them, both in terms of strict rogue like games and then just most, like not most, but a lot of my all-time favorite games have a lot of rogue in them.
Yeah.
Your Isaacs and Darkest Dungeons and Gungeons and Slay the Spires and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
No. I need to make sure my cat doesn't step on my keyboard. Okay, she's at the window. Good.
Good.
For me, I'm gonna need a little bit of crow. Hey guys, VR is good.
You're into VR now.
Yeah,
great. Looking forward to that conversation for 2020.
What do you mean that conversation for 2020?
No, I'm just joking. I'm not. I'm skeptical of VR stuff.
I was skeptical too.
Me and Will loves it. So we'll end up in that in a zone every once in a while.
Yeah, it's just a matter of finding the right games to do it with. Like room scale stuff is really good. Yeah. So that's I don't want to belabor it, but that is that is a thing that I didn't expect to happen.
I'm not trying to tell you that it's a forbidden topic or anything.
No, I just
like the reality of it is like even economically, like which I could like afford a VR rig, I don't have the space for it,
right?
Because I move into successively smaller and smaller apartments every time I move, like a Kafka story. So even if like you got really into it, I think that it would eventually lead to you would have the same kind of blue balls that Will has, where like Will is trying to explain to me that a game is very good, and I'm like, yeah, but I have no option to play that.
I can't.
It doesn't matter how good it is. I cannot go with you on this.
Yeah.
I'm not equipped to have this conversation with you.
Yeah.
And like I played Beat Saber with him for a little while, and it was cool.
Yeah.
It was fun. Like it wasn't a life-changing experience for me. Like I was like, oh, this is fun. Yeah. But I didn't flip my mind over it.
Yeah.
But it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I have capacity to dig it. And at some point I would love to do Daracene.
Yeah.
For Bonfireside Chat, and that'd be a good excuse to like actually take the plunge. But I need space. I don't have. I live in a very small apartment, folks.
The nice thing about Daracene and a lot of PSVR stuff, like basically none of it is room scale. So like Daracene, you're just sitting there with you're just sitting in a chair pointing your stuff.
It does not need to be VR.
Right.
It's the classic.
Yeah.
Is VR for a lark?
is VR for a lark? But there's like similar stuff. Like I beat until Dawn Rush of Blood last night, which is just like a VR carnival essentially. Like you're on a roller coaster and like you've got two guns and you're basically playing a light game with it, and like it's got super good spooks and scares in it.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's just PSVR, like just sitting in a recliner kind of thing. I basically my PSVR was it was a Tetris Effect machine for a year, and then I started playing other stuff, and I'm like, fuck man, how about an Oculus Quest? And that ended up also being good. So, cool. So yeah, that's my answer.
Cool.
Yep.
Where are we at? Matt says, do games ever make the jump from work games to play games? A game that you'd never otherwise play ends up being picked up for the show that ends up getting folded into regular rotation. If so, which, why, how? For me, not so much, because we tend to do stuff for the show that has an end.
Yes.
So like there ends up being games that I will replay. Like we did it for the show, and it's like this is in the canon. Like I know I will replay this. Mm-hmm. But it's very rare that we do perpetual games for the show.
Right.
It's something like I want to do like some roguelikes this year. Those are a really important genre to me, and like we've never really done it. Mm-hmm. So I want to do that, and that is something that could work its way into. The thing that is closest for me is probably like Frostpunk.
Yeah. Which
like I've played since we've done it. I've done a couple like campaigns just because I like that game a lot. Mm-hmm. But yeah, not often, but not because it's bad or anything.
Yeah. Frostpunk was a huge one for me. Just in terms of spending a bunch of time with it. But yeah, otherwise, no, the things that we play are finite, and also like I don't really have a rotation of stuff that I play. It's kind of like I constantly, there are a few things that I like go back to habitually. It's mostly like, I'm halfway through this, I need to finish that.
Well, that's genre related. Yes. That like plays into the perpetual thing. Like the only games that people habitually play are like games of service, Destiny likes, and roguelikes, and then like fighting games. There's only a few different genres that even make sense for that.
Yes.
So.
Let's see here. Michelle writes, this may overlap a bit with something I sent in specifically about Dragonfall, but since playing it for the show, I have thrown myself fully into Shadowrun stuff. I'm streaming Returns in Hong Kong in my spare time. I've even started re-listening to the Shadowrun Monster My podcast season. What was the last thing that got you guys really hungry for lore?
Yeah, like Shadowrun a little bit. I've been doing a lot of Shadowrun wiki diving, because I remembered how cool it was because we covered Dragonfall.
Same. I got that source book. It's good.
Oh. Every time that happens, I get into I spend some time reading about different Vampire the Masquerade clans.
Of course.
That's a really great TV tropes journey. All of the World of Darkness stuff is really good.
God, man, just like I will instead of reading a book tonight, I'm going to go through and open up all these folders on TV tropes, and I'm going to have myself a time.
It's a real fall asleep zone.
Yep. Follow the tabs to the end.
Yep. I have definitely done that many a time.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an unsatisfying answer because it's just two tabletop games, but those are the kind of things that I tend to like. Almost anything that we do for the show, I will have if it's something I like, I will go through a brief moment of this. Like I've also been reading a bunch of Dishonored lore.
Yeah.
Because we're covering that for the show, and I'm like, this is interesting. Like, I haven't thought about this. Like, what is all the published stuff on Panacea?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is there's not very much,
right.
but it's still like what's there is interesting.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And like Shadowrun is my current answer. So.
Yeah, Shadowrun's a great answer.
Mm-hmm.
Super good. Moving on to life questions.
Yeah.
Chris says, what's one thing your cat does that is unique to them? For example, one of ours, Jenny, short for Genesis or Jenice. Genesee? How should I say that?
I would say Genesee.
Genesee likes to scream and lick beer foam.
It's hard to tell. Like with Greta, she mostly does what I would identify as cat things. I really like that she stands up on her hind legs when she wants my attention, and for pets and stuff. Like she just stands up like a little person, and it's very awkward when a cat does
like
that.
A little Rory Calhoun.
Yeah, you know, the one who's always standing up.
Yeah. I don't think they're most cat things are not super unique. Yeah. But like for me, they'll be like unique. So like Pocket is the beard licking thing.
Mm-hmm.
The licking thing. The other night he was doing it and fell asleep while essentially like kissing my cheek.
Oh, like
he was resting his lips on my cheek and fell asleep. And it was like the cutest thing that's ever been. And I had to move to wake him up. But it's because they licks my beard. I like researched it and stuff. It's like nursing behavior.
Mm-hmm.
He thinks there's gonna be a titty in there, and I hope there's not. I hope that I get to die without a cat tit growing out of my beard.
We should all be so lucky.
Yeah, that's all any man can hope for.
Yeah.
But if so, that'd be that's a good reason for like Pocket not to get a hold of a Dragon Ball or whatever. Like, it'd be really, really horrific.
Yeah.
No one give my cat wishes.
Yeah, please don't. Man, Wishmaster forbidden from duty.
Yeah. No, thank you.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah, no, it's like Greta, she does that cat thing. She's gonna do it right now, where she sits in front of me when I'm sitting at my desk, and I've tried various tactics to get her to move without like just telling her to scram. So it used to be I pet her and she'd get tired of it, and then she'd run away. That stopped working, so I hug her. And you just basically just hug her, she doesn't go hug her and then like lift her up and like hold her like a baby. Nope, nothing. Still there. Hold her up like Simba. She's just like, okay. Sure. Like she doesn't go limp or anything, but she's like, yeah, I'm down with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, she, if she wants to be somewhere, she'll be there.
Yeah. Cats hate a closed door.
Yep. Rookie writes, when you all made the transition to being fully Patreon funded and quit your day jobs, was it a net increase or decrease to your stress levels? Did you feel less stress because you were able to support yourselves doing what you love without having to deal with the outside work bullshit? Or is it more stressful because you lost your 9-to-5 safety net?
Different stress to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't lose stress or didn't gain stress because I lost my 9-to-5 safety net. Like, at some point along the line, I realized that there's no such thing as a safety net.
Right.
You will never know security.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're listening to this, I'm sorry to say, but this is a Bob Mackie quote, but I really like it about being self-employed is that like previously, if I was going to lose my job, it'd be because one asshole who wanted me to. Mm-hmm. Now, like thousands of assholes have to decide I lose my job.
Right.
You guys aren't assholes, obviously, but like, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people would have to make that same decision for me to lose my job. I'm actually more secure now than I was when I worked for a company.
Same.
And that's true of, I think, like a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like security, I think security is an illusion, and we seek it, and we have to pretend it's there, but it's largely an illusion.
Yes.
The increased stress is comes from workload because like we do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a lot of managing deadlines.
Yes.
And then just having there be a direct tie between my output and my labor, and my income and my labor and like things like that is a source it's a good source of stress, but it's a source of stress. Like previously in my job, like I would just have days where like I'm no good today. Like I'm so tired. I'm not useful. I would go in, put in like 10%.
Yeah.
And then go home. And I can't do that with this job.
Right.
It's every day. Like it's a performance as well as a task.
Yeah.
Gotta do at least okay.
Right. Yeah.
So
No, like for me, like the change in stress, like, yeah, it just shifted to being different stress, but also like, we built this up over the course of, for me, we were building this as I was working that previous job, and just like, I was not I didn't abruptly leave that. It was like, oh, you get fewer hours now. Oh,
yeah.
Like, you're not actually employed anymore. You're just a contractor. Oh, you get one project a month. Oh, you get, whatever we give you. And like, that coincided with putting more time in on this. So like, it was like this weird little like crossfade between them in my own circumstance. But like, and generally I am much happier now that I can focus on this, because I really didn't like that old job. It was not spiritually fulfilling.
It will be very hard for me if I end up going back to not being self-employed. Yes. I know that's like a Peter Pan thing, but it would be cool if I didn't have to.
Yes.
Like, it would be difficult.
Yeah.
I could do it. I wouldn't die. I'd be very lucky to have a job. Like, some people don't get to eat. I understand all that stuff.
Yeah.
I just, it would be difficult for me.
Yeah.
So water finds its level. And this is the level the water's at, and schlossing that would be tricky.
Yep.
Yeah.
What does Douglas ask?
Douglas.
I didn't mean to assign you one. Sorry.
No, it's okay. This is fine. I'll do Douglas's. As little as 18 months ago, my wife and I shared our house with 2 parakeets and 3 big dogs. We're now down to 1 dog. All died of age-related sicknesses. Our house was once a buoyant zoo, literally and figuratively, but now it feels empty, cold, and quiet. I could go on, but I won't put you through that. My question is, how do you 2 personally deal with grief? And to make this a game question, have you ever played a video game that handled grief well or portrayed it uniquely in a way that hit home? Yeah, boy. Yeah, do you got a good answer for this, man?
No, not really.
Yeah. The second bit is harder. I would say, like, nothing's coming to mind. That doesn't mean I haven't. But like, grief has a long tail.
Yes.
In a way that games are not equipped to deal with. Like, grief takes place over months.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's a hard thing to have boiling in the background while you save the world. So it's hard for me to think of a good game that did that. Like, yes, everybody stood on the bridge and talked about Eris for 1 second, but then you still had to go fight a bunch of bombs.
Yeah.
It's not that the game doesn't handle grief well. So
Passage, I think, is a good digestible one if you make certain choices in that.
Yeah.
It does a good job at portraying that. Silent Hill 2 is about grief, or is about guilt, but it is also about grief.
Yeah, but it's so metaphorical as to be like,
it's
not directly like handling. Like, I guess it does portray it uniquely. I guess that's part of the question. I would say it does that. It's not like this that did not feel like a lived-in realistic portrayal of grief. It felt like a really exaggerated, maximalized way that still like has emotional truth, but is more like a whammy.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to think of like the video game about Schmidt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then as far as how to handle grief, like I lost my mom and my cat in the last couple of years, which are my big 2 grieving experiences. And my only takeaway from both of those things is that I have not figured out a way or a method. It just took time. And just let yourself feel any things you feel and be really kind to yourself. Like, the way I treated myself in the weeks immediately post both of those deaths was like I was in an airport, and when I'm in an airport, I give myself anything I want. Yeah. So like, if I'm in an airport and it's like, I shouldn't have coffee because I'm not gonna be able to sleep, but I want it, I'm gonna have the thing I want because I'm so, compromised in terms of my happiness that I have to balance the scales somehow. Yeah. So like with, hey, today I was supposed to do some work, but I think that all I'm going to do is sit down and watch season 6 of The Simpsons like all day. Yeah. And like, that's what I wanted. That's what you get because you lost your cat. Yeah. And that was the only thing that kind of moved time forward enough to where I felt okay. Yeah. Both those things, but it's never like gone or anything. It's not like grief like stops. No, it's it will always be with you as long as there is something that reminds. It doesn't go away, it just changes into different things. Yeah. Yep.
No, it just like I lost my grandpa last year, and for me, it was kind of like just giving myself permission to like be honest with people, you know, so specifically like, like relying on my family saying, "Hey guys, today's a really bad day for this," or when that happened with you, it's like, yeah, no, we need to clear the decks because I just can't. I can't deal with this. Not just because of like the logistics, like the whirlwind of going from the person passing to having them buried. But that like that's done in like less than a week. And yes, that is a rough week, but also it goes really fast. That isn't like the main part of it. It is the the jags that come in the weeks after. Yeah, no, just being honest, talking about it, and relying on people to be understanding if you need something.
Yeah, when somebody's in that position, like there's weirdly enough, another place where you'll find a discussion around this is the first part of me and Jeremy's discussion of the Dark Phoenix film, which somehow weirdly the last 20 minutes of which is us talking about our mom's funerals. Respectively, and ended up being like a pretty impassioned and impromptu discussion about grief. And the thing that you're talking about being honest about your needs and stuff, it is obscene in this country, I think, or in this culture or this humanity that we expect things of people when they're in that situation. Like just that feeling of like, can there just be one fucking moment where I don't have to give?
Right.
It doesn't mean I have to get. I don't need anything, but please stop asking me for things. And that can be as abstract as my time or my attention,
right?
And that can even be as something as benign as like my attention in, somebody's expressing their condolences, and you acknowledging someone expressing condolences is like you giving them something.
Yeah.
Even if it is very minor, even if it is like a part of being in a society, like that feeling of just like, man, I need to be able to be, entry only for a little bit. And that is being a thing that it's really hard to do and that we don't expect of people and that we don't, is really a bummer. And I think it runs contrary to what, at least what I need as a person to get over that. So. Yeah.
I'm really sorry about your pets.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's rough stuff. I was going to say the other thing too about pets specifically is that like, you say that you've got one dog, you're down to a dog, and you have all this empty space. That's immensely relatable. I was not complete or happy again until I got a cat.
Yeah. Again,
because space has to be filled. Like you become accustomed to a space. I cannot imagine like losing a pet and then just being like, yep, well now I don't get pets. Like that's I can't imagine it. So I'm not saying like, hey, go get a bunch of other pets. I think that if you eventually do, I think that it will help.
Yeah.
But obviously, you take your time and you have your own situations. I know nothing about, but like having that space filled can be really huge. Yeah. So we're meant to care for other things. Like it is a spiritual practice to care for another thing.
Yeah.
That is what we're here on earth to do. So, that energy has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, very, very sorry about all of that. So, shall we do lightning round at the end? Shall we do some media questions?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
Yeah. Was that me or you? That was me. This is for you.
Yeah, let's do Rodrigo here. Rodrigo writes, what are you reading recently? Also, do you guys have any suggestion of a book of dark or gothic fantasy with a cool or unique world? Bonus points if it has some horror element in it.
I don't have a good answer for this right now. I've been super busy, and then I had the holidays and stuff. I have been reading like exclusively trash. Like, and by which I mean like comics and which isn't trash. I've been reading comics and like source books and like internet, magazine style reading as opposed to novels.
Right.
Recently. And that's just kind of where I'm at right now. So I go back and forth. So I don't have a good answer for it, unfortunately.
Yeah. I've been listening to the Witcher books to get ready for the for the Witcher television show. I stopped because the show outpaced where I'm at in like the short story collection stuff. But yeah, those are good. I'm listening to them on Audible. They're fine. The one thing that sucks though is that instead of calling the bard Dandelion, one of the narrators calls him Dandelion.
Dandelion. I've heard of Dandelion before in the Witcher discourse on the Slack.
Okay.
I've heard of this Dandelion.
Yeah, I don't know who Dandelion is.
Yes. Hello. Mr. Dillion was my father, please.
Yeah. As far as like the recommendation for dark or gothic fantasy kind of thing, I don't necessarily like. One of the best fantasy books that I've read in the past, ever, not past ever, the past few years was the Eyes of the Dragon by Stephen King. You wouldn't expect him to write a good fantasy story, but there it is.
Yeah. And I have not read this recently, but I started reading the big. I'm looking up the stuff here right now, but I got into about a year ago. I was reading some Gene Wolfe.
Okay.
Specifically, I read the first book in the Book of the New Sun series, which is like a dark gothic fantasy with a very cool setting. It's demanding. It has an unreliable narrator.
Cool.
And it is dense. So I read the first book and liked it and did not continue, even though, I would like to someday, but life got in the way. So that's a recommendation.
There's a book that was recommended to me that is on my pile, but Fever Dream by George R. R. Martin. It's a gothic kind of vampire book written by him that apparently was a huge inspiration for Bloodborne.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, like the secret to George R. R. Martin is he's a great writer. Like everyone, Game of Thrones, everyone kind of rolls their eyes at it, partly because it got bad and partly because it's really big. But it's like that dude's a really good writer.
Yeah.
I read the first 3 of those books and they were extremely good. So I keep thinking about doing another run up at those.
Yeah.
Katie asks, hey, y'all. I was wondering if either of you had a chance to listen to the Monster 20th anniversary set yet. I'd be interested to hear your takes on the extras. There are certainly a lot of them. I have not yet. It hasn't come to Apple Music, but when it does, I would love to do just like a one-off file underwater for the people who keep that RSS alive, just to fuck with them.
Same. Yeah. When it comes to streaming, I don't know if it's come to Spotify yet or not. Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't think it's come out for things yet.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer because it's like I'm really looking forward to that. I love how they curate.
Moving on to show questions, Greg writes, I was curious as to how you guys dealt with the issue of getting older as you work on the podcast, especially since society is so aimed at the young people of the world and filled with constant reminders about how you're not as young as you used to be. I know you guys are younger than me, so you may not have encountered this as much as myself, but I'm 43, and no matter how hard I try not to think about it, it seems I'm reminded every day about the fact. How long it's been since game came out, playing an older game and having nostalgia, listening to a newer game on WoW that I just don't have the time to play and never will because of hand-eye coordination. The list goes on. I'd be curious to know if you guys have experienced this and how you cope with it.
Yeah. This does not, as far as the game stuff, this doesn't affect me tons.
Right.
With this, like the games I associate with the youth are like things we're not gonna cover anyway, like Fortnite and the jazz.
Yeah, we're not gonna play like auto chess on the shows. Yeah.
It's just not who we are. And that's fine. Like it's a big enough pie.
Yeah.
Is what I think of. The 2 ways this intersects with this is like most of my reminders about the world being for the young, for me, don't come from society. That stuff doesn't get to me, come from my body.
Right.
Like my kidneys remind me that I'm old. And then the other thing that I think about in relation to games is just, I think, I'm 39. Like, will this job be cute when I'm 45? Like, are people still going to want to know what I have to say about that? Like, am I going to age gracefully like a Jeff Gerstmann, or am I going to retire into obscurity like a Jeff Green? Which Jeff will I be as an old man?
That is the weirdest follow-up. So just oh man, which Jeff will I be as a follow-up to what color is my parachute? Yeah.
Just a picture of Jeff Green and Jeff Gerstmann like staring at each other on the cover in the same font and everything.
Yep.
But I don't know if but that I think that's wrapped up in like weird rules, right? Like, oh, this is podcasting is not like a young person's job because it's barely a job. Like very few people have it.
Right.
There's no reason for me not to just, as long as people are interested, there's no reason for me to stop doing what I like to do. it is dependent entirely on that. It's just my head being like, oh, at some point I got to grow up, and then that's a fake idea.
Yeah, no, it's getting in trouble is a fake idea. Growing up is a fake idea. At least in this weird kind of space that we occupy, as the younger person in this equation, something that has been a comfort to me when it comes to this, when it comes to like, I'm baby. No, when it comes to questions of relevance and continued relevance, something that has been a comfort to me is that, like, weirdly, whenever we have done a check on who is in our audience, like, the median has always fallen somewhere between you and me, Gary.
Yeah.
And like, oh, our audience
game recognized game.
But like our audience has always been, people who are in our cohort to a certain extent. And yeah, that's, not necessarily a growth market. But there's nothing saying that we will not find more people who like what we're putting down, etc. Like sure. Just people who, the audience will grow up with us. People who are interested in the kinds of stuff that we talk about are going to find us. So like, I don't necessarily get like a sense of dread about it.
No, and yeah. It's a weird thing because I don't listen to Giant Bomb, but I do find them discouraging as like guys who are probably roughly my age or older who do this.
Yeah.
Like it is a kind of thing. There's no governing body. Like there's nothing that says that we can't just keep being people. So, and I like, I generally like people of all ages. Like I most of the people who listen are median ages or listen to us are in our median age. We have some youngos, like every once in a while, someone will be in. I'm just like, oh man, you're like fucking 22. We'll meet somebody at a convention and they're very young, but they're all great. Like they're thoughtful and nice and everything. And it's, not to age ain't nothing but a number, but like age is more than a number. Like it's like age is real, but it's almost unrelated to how long you've been on Earth.
Yeah, it's a difference between age and maturity,
Yes, like maturity is way more important than age, and kind of maturity and sophistication and stuff. That stuff is real.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So for my entire life, all of my friends have always been older than me, pretty much. I have always been kind of the youngest person in a room, and baby. As that baby, but like as that changes, I just have become comfortable with being on the other side of that and thinking like, oh yeah, like just there are a bunch of people like Cole running around, like just it's still there. It's it's still a factor. It's just and it kind of it always has been that way. So
Simon says, hey guys, it was awesome when you did the episode on Resident Evil 2 remake. It's so soon after release. Any chance you'll do the same for Nemesis? It's always a rarity to have you guys discuss a brand new game on WAF, but it's always fun. Actually, saying that, have you ever thought about doing something like a poll where you nominate 6 upcoming games and let the community vote on one that you play and discuss right around release, like a twice a year kind of thing? First part of that is easy. We are going to cover that right after it comes out.
Yep.
It's not on the schedule just yet. But we, it's softly on the schedule. It's on the soft schedule. Yeah. And yes.
Yeah. As far as like the new releases, like saying like, yeah, this game is coming out in September and we're going to do an episode about it in October. That is such a gamble for the commitment that we need to make to do this show.
Yes. Because we play in advance. We balance like a lot of the hard part of the show is meeting a lot of deadlines and balancing a lot of plates at the same time. And also, earlier we answered a question about like not being part of the discussion being kind of a boon.
Yeah.
It's not something I want to engage in pretty rarely, not just for the show, but like in general.
Yeah, like we covered Dishonored 2 really shortly after it came out, but like both of us were looking forward to that and we kind of knew it would be our jam. And I think by the time we decided to do it for the show, one of us had already played most of it and said, yeah, this will bear it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this is something we'll probably never make into a system, but will just happen from time to time.
Yeah.
Tom
writes, I was listening to an older episode, Doom, I think, and you mentioned reaching out to another podcast host to guest. How does that work? Like, do you sell yourself to a prospective guest that might know who you are? We have this many listeners. We reach this many people. We've been going this long. Or is it more informal?
Yeah. This was mostly something we did for Bonfireside Chat more than anything else. Like WAF episodes with guests are pretty rare.
Right.
And the way that, me and Cole, we talked about before, like our natural duty split.
Yeah.
This tended to be a Gary thing. And the way I would do it is just reaching out and being like, hey, this is who we are. This is what we're doing. Are you interested? I would not flex any numbers or anything like that.
Right.
Because I just kept thinking, it made me think about like being in a band, and when bands would say like, hey, we want to play in your town. Do you want to jump on the show? And they're expecting me to provide a big audience. And I'm like, I don't know if that will happen. Like I can't, all of this stuff is so Byzantine that like, I don't know how to quantify if somebody listens to guest on Bonfireside Chat, someone listens to it, how many people will follow them back to their thing.
Right.
I don't want to make any statements about that because I think that it's only semi-predictable. So I've generally relied more on like, hey, this is who we are. We're nice.
Yeah.
Do you want to do this thing? And not flexed any numbers.
Yeah. The value kind of needs to be intrinsic to what we're asking, because it is impossible to promise accurately or reliably anything else besides like, we like what you do. We think it'd be fun to talk. It's an hour and a half out of your day.
Yeah. Like, will this be fun for you?
Yeah.
And then like in a larger way, like, that was on an older episode. We talked about that. Like we've moved away from doing guest stuff generally. And I like it more. And I think it's a good direction. So I know some people, probably are disappointed in that. I know that we got some like cranky Bonfireside Chat reviews that we didn't have guests anymore. It's hard. It's hard. And it's not as comfortable to record for us. And, one thing we talk about all the time is like part of the reason why we are able to make all the content we make is because we do it in a way that is comfortable for us. Yeah. Like we find a sustainable thing. And just like really, really, after doing this long, it's very easy to sit down and record with you, or sit down and record with Jeremy, or sit down and record with Will or Brayton. It's like a lot harder when there's a third person in the room. Yeah.
I just like, this is not against anybody who has guested on anything.
Not remotely.
Not remotely, but like, it's kind of the same way that having a flight coming up makes me kind of anxious ambiently for the 2 weeks in advance of the flight. Knowing somebody is going to be on, like, it adds a little bit more stress to it. I don't that is just garden variety social anxiety, but it's there. Yeah.
It's like a patina of stress, and people have been uniformly lovely.
Yes.
Like the people especially like patrons we've had on, I'm not just saying this, like people have been great.
Yeah.
Like it has been like really sweet, really insightful, and it's not them. It is like literally us dealing with our own bullshit.
Yeah.
And wanting to, to record in our underwear, both literally and then also figuratively and like, dialectically.
Yeah. And also like it's down to like personal logistics bullshit. Like, I don't know, probably like 4 times out of 5, we need a 10-minute punt because one of us is having a terrible stomach day.
Totally. Having a bad stomach day.
Yeah.
Things like that.
I don't want to explain that to a friendly stranger. Hey, I'm sorry. You need to like go check the news or something because Cole has to shit.
That's not a flattering look.
No.
So like and then scheduling.
Yeah.
Is a lot harder with other people. There's just like lots of it's hard to edit.
Yeah.
With other people, there's a lot of arguments against it, and I appreciate that people dug it.
Yeah.
And I just think that like it is definitely like a sometimes and more rare treat because it just works a little bit less.
Yeah.
And if you're disappointed to hear that, I apologize.
Yes.
It's not personal. It's just like, one of the founding principles of the network is like, we make the best stuff when we're having the most fun. And this is in favor of having fun.
Yes.
When we did like kind of classical interviews, the times we had like Ron Gilbert on or Chris Avalone on or anything, we could not have done those as Skype videos because every single time I asked a question, I visibly flinched like afterwards. Like I was like a bully was going to hit me.
Yeah.
I felt so nervous about it. Like it was just, it was rough stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah.
No. What else do we have to say about things we're no longer doing?
I mean, just
moving
like
on to Lewis here.
Yeah.
Like,
Gosh.
what else are we not doing?
Yeah,
what other ways have we decreased value?
Sign up for more guilt here.
What's up, baby?
Lewis writes, I've really enjoyed your written output in the past. Infinity Engineers, the Dark Souls 3 and PC article, Hexcrank, and the blog were all great reads. I can absolutely see why the time and effort required to do long-form written analyses compared to the relatively free-form, discursive format of podcasts, as well as their much wider reception, makes it a pretty uneconomical prospect. But I might as well ask, do either of you have any written articles that you're planning or would like to do?
Yeah. I don't have anything planning to do that. I can just speak for myself. Where I got the outlet for this is by doing the solo Duckfeed Presents podcast that I do. So I've done like maybe 10 of those. So like I replayed Deus Ex. I talked about it. I've done some like Darkest Dungeon stuff, some Enter the Gungeon stuff, complained about Diablo 3. If I play a game not for the show, I tend to record 20 minutes of my thoughts on it for patrons.
Yes.
So, and those are presents, so they're at the $10 level, just to kind of juice that tier a little bit. That has taken a lot of this output kind of zone for me. To that, I like writing stuff. I liked doing Infinity Engineers. It was just a lot of work to play one of those long ass games on top of everything else I was playing.
Yeah, that's that ultimately comes down to be it, is like finding a workflow that fits in with everything else. Like for Hexcrank articles, which are not officially dead, it's just that they take forever to do, and I drop them because deadlines for kind of current things, and that a little bit. So the drive to do that is sated by doing the streams, which again is freeform and discursive and has an audience there providing me with validation, which is good. But also by doing the Hexcrank first hours, like the new release kind of things, which actually open up with like a little, short pre-written kind of edited thing that I do there. The actual articles is like play the entire game, basically make an entire WAF outline. Like I have like 3 games in outline right now for Hexcrank retrospectives, but also grabbing screenshots, also editing the video retrospective together, things like that. Just a lot of workflow kind of things. So like what do I have planning or would like to do? Just more of those. It's just a matter of like not being saturated with deadlines for podcast stuff, which is the bigger commitment.
Yeah, which will like almost never happen.
Right.
Like not being saturated with that stuff, like not being discouraging,
to
you or to the listeners, but like, this is an ongoing concern. There's a real difference in the workflow of the podcast and stuff in a way that intersects with my creative self and my feeling of self-worth a lot, where like it is not a launch-based creative endeavor. Like, when you do something that is like a big project thing, if you're like YouTube creators who I follow, they get to be like, hey, here's the new video. I know it's been like 2 months, but here it is. And then there's a big flurry of discussion around that. And it took a lot of work, and it's like this like giving birth thing. And us, like, we're giving birth like a seahorse, where it's just a constant stream of little monsters, just horrible little beasts. Popping out of our cloaca. Like it is a continuous, like it's a job, and it's we keep the stuff coming out. I'm proud of it all. It's still like a production and stuff, but it doesn't have the like cadence of finishing a written article or finishing a book or finishing a video or something like that. It is more just like, hey, business as usual. We put out the bread. And that can feel kind of bad. Like it can feel there's like a high that comes from the other way that is missing. But at the same time, this is more than a full-time job. Like when you take into account play, like I'm working more than full-time job hours, almost every week. And I mean every week, because if I'm not doing it for that week, I'm getting ahead for travel and other stuff like that. So like it is more than a full-time job, and it takes up all that time. And like, I got a band. I could see my girlfriend and stuff. I got stuff going on. I don't want to just have my life be all work. So it is hard to fit in another hobby. There's
a concept in business logistics like stock versus flow. Like how much are you building a stockpile versus like how much are you geared to build up a stockpile versus how much are you geared to have throughput? We as a shop are very, very geared toward throughput. Like
Yes.
just things are constantly going, you know, just in terms, you know, and it has to be, you know, and that overlap and that constant busyness. Like we choose to do this, right?
Yeah.
We're like, we chose this setup as not something that was forced upon us. We chose it because it is, you know, the work we want to do.
But any choice has the opportunity, like whenever you choose something, you're not choosing the other things.
Right.
And this question is basically about the other things.
Yes.
You know, we're talking about the other things, and we've made this choice instead of that choice.
Yeah.
You have to remind me, do we do lightning round before or after the topic?
It has depended in the past.
Okay,
but what do you feel like doing
lightning
now?
round real quick, because they're quick and there aren't very many of them.
Yes.
And then we'll do our topic.
Cool.
So David says, well, actually, this wraps into our topic.
Yeah.
So I will. This is a preview. We won't answer it now.
Mm-hmm.
But just so you know, here's the sneaky preview. What are your thoughts on game delays in general? In more specific, how do you feel about Cyberpunk getting delayed, but not long enough to release it without resorting to more massive crunch? So stay tuned, David.
Stay tuned. Yeah.
Yeah. What does Ben say?
Ben says, what is the process for writing intro music for your shows? Are there any songs that almost made the cut before being replaced with something else?
I don't think there are any deleted draft versions.
So the end theme for Abject Suffering used to be like you sent it forward as, hey, this is what the opening will be. I was like, cool, yeah, I like this, that's good. And then you said, no, I wrote an intro. Make that the outro. Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Generally, the way that I approach music, like just for my half of it, is that it's very instinctual, and I sit down and I'm like, here's a mood, and then I kind of chip away at it until it becomes the mood, and then I'm like, it's done.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have just a huge pile of drafts. Like I don't actually have a lot of unreleased music. I was looking through my music drive, and there are maybe like 5 to 10 Mario Paint songs I haven't put out on anything. You know, like it doesn't. I tend to just kind of work on it until it's done, and then once it's done, I'm good with it. Yeah. So.
I've not done very many of these, but in the past, it has just been a matter of like I find the sound, so I mess around with either, you know, the MIDI settings, and find like a particular, like, oh yeah, this is the lead that I like, this is the bass sound that I like, and then build it around that. Same thing with like guitar, you know. You know, the one of these that was different, that was really fun, was the File Underwater theme, where you sent over kind of the rhythm tracks, and I did the guitar. That was fun to do.
It's a fun theme. It's a good theme song too.
Yeah, thank you.
I've considered. I wrote that too.
I know.
Thank you. I've considered just stealing that for the band as well. Yeah. Like I could use these chords and just
do it. It's fine.
There's no reason for Modrids not to use this if I wanted to. There's no rules.
Yeah.
Brad says, have you ever thought about doing a podcast covering old horror movies, specifically ones from the 70s, 80s, and 90s that are less well known? I'd love to hear you talk about the early Cronenberg films. I have not thought about that. I like all of that stuff. I feel like that's really well-worn territory in podcasts.
Yes.
There's a lot of like horror movie podcasts, and they're cool, and I like them. But I don't necessarily feel the need to. I think we found our niche with that, with Unfilmable. Yeah. And even that's not a forever niche. You know? Yeah.
I like those movies. I don't feel like I would have anything special or unique to say about it.
Yeah.
You know, like Cronenberg movies, it'd be, I don't know, kind of just Chris Farley's show about Videodrome or whatever.
Yeah. I like the early Cronenberg movies more than I like the later ones. So that's a little, everything pre-Existenz I am more into than post-Existenz. Yeah. And Existenz counts as post-Existenz. I don't like that movie.
It's nice. A little slow.
I like that there's a gun that shoots teeth, but the movie's dumb as hell. Do you hear me, Chinese waiter? Like, it is so dumb.
Yeah.
Too dumb for me.
Philip writes, aliases. Do either of you have a go-to alias in your hip pocket, a Rusty Shackelford or the like?
Sure. Larry Butterman is my how I signed up for old AOL discs.
Cool.
Back in the day. And then there's also Barry Margarine Meadows, which is the other one. Yeah. So Larry Butterman and Barry Margarine Meadows.
I have used Rusty Shackelford in the past. That's because I'm not creative. Sometimes if I need to give a name and I know they're going to misspell it, or I know they're not going to understand it, I just say Bob. You know,
Bob Ross.
Yeah.
And sign yourself up for something there.
Yeah. Usually that's in cases where they don't get the last name.
Yeah, a Starbuck.
Yes, a Starbuck. The full reveal of Bob Ross is just for me.
Yeah. No. Nick says, two of my top three most played games in 2019 were revealed to me via PSN wrap-up. They were Enter the Gungeon and Wasteland 2. Both are awesome recommendations I got through the network. My question is, if you could level up for the rest of your life in either a Gungeon or a Wasteland, which would it be?
Oh, Wasteland, most definitely.
You'd go for the Wasteland.
Oh, a Gungeon would be horrifying.
Well, here's my thought about Gungeon is you're immortal. Like, you come back to life in a Gungeon. You know? But
so,
yeah, I mean, a Wasteland would also be, I mean, I don't know. You know me in the Dark Gift. Like,
yeah. I mean, so is everybody who steps foot in the Gungeon immortal? I've not played enough of that game to know, or is there something special about your character that makes them immortal?
It's everyone in the Gungeon. It's there's like a time loop thing. Okay. That like the true ending of the game is going back and stopping the time loop from happening.
Gotcha.
They're getting the gun that kills the past.
So like even if you revive, you would still, I mean, like getting shot a bunch of times and dying would be pretty traumatic. It would hurt. And I don't know that I would sign myself up for that, you know? There
are mimics and stuff there too.
Yeah.
I just feel like the Wasteland would also be really hard.
Well, it depends on what kind of wasteland is it, you know?
Yeah. Is it a winter wasteland?
Yeah,
is it like a toy waste? Is it a teenage wasteland? Yeah, that's not so bad.
Well, but I mean, like that I couldn't cry or close my eyes.
Yeah,
like that's weird.
Baba O'Reilly is you O'Reilly. Yeah, I think that like because I've just recently like I was on Jim Crawford's Topic Lords podcast talking about like what I would do in the post-apocalypse and like generally it's like food, you know, like I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd get eaten.
Yeah,
immediately.
No, you know? I don't have any like I don't have any, you know, delusions about like being a badass in this. I would lose my mind relatively early on, but
yeah,
you know, if it wasn't just like if it was a the Road Wasteland as opposed to a Fallout Wasteland, I would prefer that because fewer monsters. It's just people, but
yeah. Well, those are the real monsters.
Well, of course. Yeah.
I think that if the bombs are hitting, I hope that you and I have enough time to go to the tattoo parlor and tattoo marbled grade A on our foreheads just to get it over quicker.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Like just you know, human veal coming through.
Let's see here. Holland writes, quick one for Gary. What's the next game, if any, in line for a Power Worlds treatment? Do you have any long-term plans as far as how many of these you want to make overall?
I have a paragraph idea for all of them that I've put in the like other books in the series thing, but it's just a paragraph. And the first one of those was very fun. The second one took a lot out of me, and I think it's because of just like what was going on in my life.
Yeah.
At the time, I experienced a lot of tragedy when I was writing that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I have not wanted, 2019 was a big year. I specifically was like, I'm not going to start any new projects. I'm just going to curate existing projects. That was an intentional thing. And then we started Duckfest, which like was so much work and took a year off my life. So it was kind of a fake, I kind of lied about that.
Yeah.
But I still think I'm carrying some of that philosophy forward of like curating the network, growing the network as being kind of my goal rather than starting a side project.
Yeah.
The thing I want to do before I do another Power Worlds, if I do another Power World, is I wanted to write a short story collection of like horror fiction. I have a couple of horror short stories I like, and then I have ideas for more, and I've thought about doing that. It's just the time.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is if I do another Power Worlds, I think the next one I would do would be Bloodborne. And the only joke I have from that is that the church, instead of wanting more eyes, they just want you to have bigger eyes. So eventually, like everyone that you run in, the main character runs into, and that's just like, like
nothing but basilisks.
Yeah, just big sagging pendulous double D eyeballs hanging out of their titty sockets.
Yeah, veiny.
Yeah.
Last one here. It's a two-part, one for you, one for me. Zero Dark Thoughty, which is a screen name I love, says, Gary, favorite Magic the Gathering set?
That's a great question. I love like modern. I love all the Innistrad stuff, obviously. All the Lovecraftian things, like the Shadow of Innistrad set was incredibly good flavor. Very cool. And then old from when I was like first playing, and before that, it's not a good set, but I always had tons of affection for Legends. And when they first put out the set that reprinted old cards from Legends, I was just like ecstatic to get all these weird like glyphs and old weird legend characters that I'd read about in like Magic books. So that's my favorite old set.
Yeah.
Even though it's a garbage set, like it's really bad cards. But
I like the good cards.
That's a good move. That's a winning strat.
Yeah. And then Zero Dark 30 also asks, Cole, favorite Jackbox game? I really, really like Split the Room.
Yeah, Split the Room's good.
Yeah.
You know, that's a good one.
You know, if I'm not going to go with one of the power duo of Quiplash or Fibbage.
Yeah. Which are also really good.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move on to our topic.
Let's do it.
We'll get that in spoosh, but then we have the body of the topic, and we're going to kind of take these two questions and merge them to be a kind of general discussion point.
Right.
I guess. So I'll read it here. This is Greg. It says, I'm sure that you guys are aware of the trend these days of companies releasing games that are not fully baked and then patching them later on. I've seen a lot of debate online about how best to deal with this, but the main argument comes down to, should I support this company for what they did by buying the game after it's been patched and playable, thereby perhaps encouraging said company to continue to do this crappy thing, or should I boycott the game and never buy it, even if it is in a playable state and is regarded as a great game, therefore sending a message with my wallet, but missing out on playing a good game? The biggest example I can think of is No Man's Sky, since a huge update just came out for it. I can see both sides of this issue, and in the past I got around this by buying the game used. But that's harder and harder in an all-digital era. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about this.
Yeah.
So we're kind of combining this with the question about crunch and the delay with Witcher 3 as a kind of all-purpose, like the ethics of being a video game consumer.
Yes,
discussion.
Or the delay with Cyberpunk 2077.
Yes.
The smaller question at the start of the Cyberpunk delay question is like, hey, what do you guys think of delays? I think that we can dispense with that, and this will probably inform my posture for the bulk of this, which is delay. Delay everything. Take all the time you need. There is no shortage of games. As long as you are not making Elden Ring, you can delay, because we need to make plans against that.
Yeah. It's interesting because the delay question, like there are two sides to the argument for it. And I agree with you, like obviously like delay, right? Yeah. But if you as a consumer delay, because that is how the game gets done. You know, if somebody says like, you know, hey, I'm cooking you a steak and I told you it'd be 8 minutes to cook the steak, but it's going to be 10. You don't want the steak, you know, I'm using it as a bad example because you can be that rare. Yeah. I'm cooking you chicken. I told you it's going to be 30 minutes, but it's actually going to be 40. Saying no, stick to the 30, I'll eat raw chicken is amongst the dumbest postures that gamers have.
Right.
It's so stupid. Like it is just like, yes, you're mad that like the company was quote unquote dishonest initially. That shows just a remarkable lack of maturity and understanding of how creative things are done.
Yeah.
Is a huge complicated thing with hundreds of people involved, tons of forces, publisher forces and stuff like that. Expecting an accurate down to the moment, you know, just be like, well, for where I come from, a businessman keeps their word.
No,
like,
no, they don't.
Up.
Fuck you.
No, they don't. They never did. That is a weird fake idea that was invented to like boost up mechanics.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's just like, it's so dumb. Yeah. And then from a human standpoint, which is always more important than your gamer standpoint, delay because people might not get exploited as much.
Yeah.
You know,
like, so the secret to the secret short answer to this is because there is no ethical consumption of capitalism. That is not an excuse to just go and be shitty. It is just a way to, you know, live in the world, is to acknowledge that. So because that is the case, and because, you know, it sucks that you are only empowered as a consumer, you know, and even then your dollar does not actually buy you that much of a vote. The only answer for this is more democratized workplaces in video game development. So fucking unionize.
Yeah. Do the best, you know, and we're that's to developers. As a consumer, we don't have any control over whether that happens.
Right.
That's going to be an exceedingly slow process.
Right.
For like the industry to get on that page. Right. Like, capitalism's big, powerful. Like there's a full head of steam behind it. Yeah. There's a lot of ways that we're just used to doing things.
And guess what? They get to write the rules. So
they write the rules and people are cheering them on. Like when people are like, I cannot believe you're delaying. Yeah. They are cheering on the wrong side of it.
Yeah.
So, and those are not the developers and stuff. Those are just straight up the consumers, right? Like those are the people who exist in this world. But you run into a trap where like, and it's a very common trap, and it's something that I see more in conservative thinking than I see in other thinking. I'm not saying this is all conservatives, but there's a thing people can do where it's like, if you can't help everybody, help nobody.
Right.
And I think that's a shitty perspective
right
on the world. Like, everybody counts.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no shortage of games. Like, I will wait as long as it takes. Like,
Mm-hmm.
every game that I've ever loved and played, I would take as much delay as it would take for no one to be exploited to make it.
Yep.
Because the pie is infinitely huge.
Mm-hmm.
I will die before I get to play every game I want to play.
Right.
The idea of caring about a delay like that at any real person's expense who, like, it's not an abstract. Like, it's a weird thing, gamers. Like, these people exist.
Mm-hmm.
They have families and lives and rich internal thought processes and all the same things you do. Everyone else in the world has, spoiler, like, everyone else is a person as well. You are not how does this affect me, the main character of reality? Like, don't be that person.
Yeah.
No,
and here's the other thing. If we cannot convince, the straw man that we are talking to, if we cannot convince the aggregate of all of the assholes on Twitter that we have that we are holding in our mind that caring about people is a good thing to do, guess what? Happy workers are better workers. They make better, cooler stuff.
Otherwise you're eating the raw chicken.
Yeah.
Or you're eating the chicken that the cook push through, and study after study shows this, right? Like, every country where people get more time off and workers are treated better have higher productivity and higher workplace satisfaction, like, basically across the board. It's not debatable as a correct perspective.
Right.
And there's also, like, just a right sizeness too. So, like, there's something that in thinking that I think about, where, like, balancing conveniences to where, for some people, the inconvenience that they have personally is bigger than any inconvenience anyone can have at any scale.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, let's say Final Fantasy VII gets delayed.
It did.
Yeah. That's why I'm using an example. And so if you think about yourself and if you could quantize or somehow formulate the misery that you feel having to wait 2 months to play Final Fantasy VII Remake, right? That's on you. And what does that look like? Like, if you visualize it as, like, a unit of misery, and then can think about what it would be like to work 70-hour weeks for 3 months in a row, and then visualize that misery, and then multiply it by that staff. Like, how, from a purely utilitarian standpoint, are you not putting your needs second in that situation? Like, it just drives me nuts.
Yeah.
The wrong way to be. It is a shitty philosophy.
Yeah.
We're not put on this earth to do that.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, like, as far as, when you get getting to, okay, so what do we as consumers, again, with our, limited power, so just again, as Americans specifically, we're empowered as consumers and little else. And even that power we have as consumers, not that great. Literally, like, the thing that you do when you're deciding what to reward, the decision, okay, I do not want to reward XYZ behavior. That is, to me, in my mind, less powerful than rewarding the good behavior. So, like, I don't know, it's pretty cool to me that Slime Rancher, which is a good game, was made without crunch. Right?
Yeah.
They made it and they shipped it, and that is a studio that never crunches. I will, when that comes up, I will always bring it up. If you're a person who has a voice, if you're a person who, guess what, in the modern landscape, plays things and talks about them, because we all do on Twitter, like, actually, like, talking up the good thing, is the way, one of the ways to, to help this is to, is for studios to advertise that they are doing the right thing, so we can reward them for it. And, actually kind of, like, raise that as behavior that should be modeled. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because it plays into, these are, as much as this is behavior that should be modeled, that does not have an independent relationship with it's not totally divorced. As much as your joy and what you like takes a back seat, it's not totally divorced from that kind of thing. So you end up with situations like, I have not played Slime Rancher. I'm sure it's great. Let's say you just don't like Slime Rancher. I'm not trying to say you have a moral imperative to play Slime Rancher because it was made under good conditions.
Right.
Like, that's not really what it is. It's a concern, but it's not a primary concern.
Right.
And as that plays into the boycotting part, like voting with your dollars for things, I think that, like, something we say all the time, like everybody draws their own line.
Mm-hmm.
You do your, we talked on this show or this specific sub show before about like moral offsets, basically.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to play the shit out of Cyberpunk.
Yep.
I don't like, that it was delayed is probably good.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably still doing crunch.
No, they are. They've said it.
Yeah. They're crunching it up to do it. That sucks. I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that studio is problematic. I'm still probably going to play that game. I am going to talk up other games that do what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to continue to be like an ally and supporter of, some of the oppressed people that CD Projekt Red is shitty to.
Yeah.
I'm going to do all those things and end up in the end being like a person who is not cut and dry, like black or white,
right?
Living correctly or incorrectly.
Yeah, my existence can't be a political statement. That is exhausting.
Yes, the idea of like being 100%, hypocrisy does not invalidate everything that a person is.
Mm-hmm.
Being 100% consistent in your positions like that is unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that there aren't games that like, but when I say a line, that there's really a line. There are games where I do feel like I don't want to give them my money.
Mm-hmm.
Not on the illusion that has tons of power.
Right.
Like me not giving Ion Fury
Mm-hmm.
money.
Right.
Because they're shitheads and they double down on being shitheads.
Mm-hmm.
Is not going to make that big of a difference.
Right.
It's more about how I feel. Like I'd feel dirty doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I'd feel shitty.
Yeah. And like when I play Cyberpunk 2077, which I'm going to do, like, I don't know, it's going to come up. Like the labor practices of that studio is going to come up. It's going to be part of the conversation. Yeah. And I think that, that is the kind of the least that we can do.
You have to think about it.
Yeah.
You have a responsibility to think about it. You don't have a responsibility to come down on one end or the other.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things about the stuff that I think reactionaries get so one thing that, if to the degree that like people who are right about this labor stuff, which is us, like we're not wrong about this labor stuff. Yeah. Like there's no good argument for this crunch stuff. The degree to which we can win hearts and minds, probably not just by saying we're right about it and other people are wrong.
I was going to take it as read. Yeah. I was going to say weird sequencing in your thoughts there, Butterfield.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, it's okay. It's like, the way I think is kind of like a musical jazz. But the way to win hearts and minds is not to tell, like, if you're like, you've decided you want to boycott CD Projekt Red because of crunch.
Right.
The way to win hearts and minds is to say, hey, I don't feel good about this because of X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to do it.
Yep.
The way not to win hearts and minds is to be, I can't believe anybody would fucking do this. You're a fucking asshole and monster if you play this game. Unfriend me now.
Yeah.
That is a way for people. That is people are just going to like shut you out because it sounds, hysterical and is not nuanced and does not provide any reasoning and behind it, and does not like take into account the fact that like there is no ethical consumption. Like you can make that bold stance. I guarantee there's something that like you partake in or buy that is equally problematic, if not more.
Yeah, you like almonds?
Yeah, you like almonds, do you? Yeah, exactly. Like that's exactly it. Are you eating almond butter right now? Well,
boy, I got some news for you.
Let's get into the Olympics of what does the most damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also like decide like, okay, so like what am I trying to accomplish here? Is persuasion what I'm trying to do? In this interaction, it might not be, but understand that if you are entering into a conflict with somebody over the way that they have decided to consume, and persuasion isn't your goal, but you're getting into the conflict anyway, all that you're kind of doing is punching somebody and expecting question mark.
Yeah. Like you don't have an end game.
Yeah.
Like there's no end game to it. And persuading somebody of something is really hard.
Yes.
Like one of the soft rules of the Slack is this is not a place to change anybody else's mind.
Yeah. Nobody's mind has been changed by an entry in a text field.
Yep. Never. Like it doesn't work that way. You can express yourself really well. You can sometimes bounce your ideas off somebody and come to a better understanding of something, but you're unlikely to be able to persuade in that situation. Yeah. So if that is not your goal, sometimes you can lead by example. You can gently, like, think about, I don't know how universal this is, But like, if I am going to be persuaded by something or I'm going to adopt an opinion, I have never been told to adopt that opinion.
Right.
I've always seen it and then been like, yeah, that makes sense for me.
Like, oh yeah, okay,
like, I like that.
That matches up. Like, I was not aware of the full picture of this, but this person has, this person has stated it or demonstrated it, and it's like, oh yeah, no, like that actually is totally reasonable. That fits in with my greater worldview.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like, that is why online discourse stuff is so frustrating. And we're not just trying to pivot this into a general thing. Like, it also very much applies to this, but like, hey, listen up, you're not ready to have this conversation yet, but this is horseshit, is never going to do a thing.
Yeah.
Other than like express the anger of the person doing it, which is valid and can be useful, but it's not. I
don't know. Maybe it shouldn't involve a relatively innocent third party in expressing the anger. Like, well, why are you angry with me?
Yeah, that's completely a thing, and it's not going to change the systems in place that we are.
And that's the thing. Again, back to no ethical consumption, right? Like, individual action is always going to be outweighed by systemic change, right?
Yes.
It's whether it's day one DLCs or plastic straws.
Yes.
Like what you do, you can have your own, you can have your own concept about, put it being a drop in the ocean or whatever, but like have perspective on that as well.
Yeah. It's not that it doesn't count, but it just right size it. Yeah. So like playing into kind of greater ethical concerns, not just crunch, but also like day one DLC or EA's suite of live service bullshit. Like basically anything Jim Sterling says in a Jim Sterling voice, any of those things, like, yeah, they suck. Yes. If everyone decided they sucked and stopped buying them, they would go away.
Yeah.
The secret is most people aren't as bothered by them as you are.
Yep.
Like businesses are extremely easy to understand.
If they're doing something, it's because it's made them money.
Yes. Like, businesses are predictable.
Yeah.
Businesses are not complicated machines. Like, they will do things that make them more money. They will avoid doing things that make them less money, period. Yeah. There's no other concerns.
Yeah. They make mistakes. Sometimes they step out on a limb and there's biffs, but like generally that is their motivation.
It's always their motivation.
Yeah. And generally they are basing that decision on something.
Yes. So like So while it is true that EA would stop doing live services or day one DLC if everyone who complained about it online stopped buying them, that thing, most people don't, or not if everyone complained online, if everyone stopped buying them. But the people who complain about them online are kind of a minority.
Yeah.
And those games have something that people like.
Yeah.
So they buy them. And, you think about just the kind of people who are not part of this discussion who like buy Madden games from 7-Eleven every year.
Yeah.
Who are just like, that's just an example of somebody who doesn't have your relationship with the industry.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's not costing the EA money. They ain't going to do it, you know? And the way that companies make those changes is when like, it's like the cultural wind shifts in a way that, yes, we individually have power over, but it's a long goal.
Yeah.
Like Kleenex started, Kleenex does an ad campaign that has, a person that's like a body positive, like a fat person in it. They didn't do that because somebody at Kleenex had a change of heart.
Now we are edging into woke brand territory.
Yeah, exactly. Like there are no woke brands. There are no woke game companies like, other than the Slime Rancher people, God save them. But like, they decided to make this kind of thing because the wind's changed. And one of the things I think about a lot with that is how am I just now seeing fat people in ads? Are fat people new?
Like, absolutely not.
Is this? But now it's like every once in a while I'll see like a slightly chunky model. On outside of a Torrid in a mall. And I'm like, if that's how long it took for something that's literally just
an epidemic people. An epidemic.
Like literally just an epidemic and something that has existed for in the entirety of history to end up in our ads. Like, what is me not buying? Will I die before me not buying a game that has day one DLC changes that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
This also arrives at very funny moments, like last year's E3, where all of these publishers got up and said, they announced their games, and then they say like it's a feature and no loot boxes.
Yeah, I love that so much. Like you causing a problem and then wanting a pat on the back for like solving the problem.
Yeah. Oh, I saved your life because I could have pushed you off this ledge, but I didn't
shoot you.
Yeah.
Like I'm saving people's life all the time because I don't kill them.
Yeah.
It's
just like, man, I just this happens all the time where like I'll drive by somebody that I know and I will think I could honk at them and really like, jolt them, and then I don't, and then I feel good about not doing it.
Yeah, oh yeah. Always want that cookie for like not touching the stove.
Yeah.
Or not putting someone else's hand on the stove.
Right.
So something that's interesting that I was just thinking, this just bubbled into my brain while we're talking about this, and it's something to be interrogated, right? So like maybe somebody listening to this is screaming at us because this is something I didn't really consider until now. Mm-hmm. Kind of the thrust of what at least what I don't want to speak for you, but what I've been talking about with this kind of plays into like, I almost think that there is a good reason to do this dollar vote stuff on indie publishers and less of a good reason to do it for EA.
Okay.
Like it's like I feel good about like not giving money to Ion Storm. I still or Ion Fury. I still don't think it's going to make a big difference.
Yeah.
But I feel like the giving them money would make me feel shittier because it's a smaller relationship. Like I have a relationship with those guys. They're just dudes my age probably.
Yeah.
Who made a game. It's not like a multi-continent spanning megacorp.
Yeah.
And there is a degree of, I like this sucks, but there is a degree of like having more power over small people.
Yeah.
Smaller developers like that. And is that fair or good? Like probably not.
I think it's just a reflection of the reality. Like just the number of people involved. Like, I don't know, I could probably hold my own in a fight against the Ion Fury guys. Or at least, like if I was given 5 minutes in their office, I could probably take most of their systems offline.
Sure. Like if Duckfeed versus the Ion Fury devs.
I'm not saying I want to do that.
But in an Anchorman kind of rumble way.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that's a good idea or that's something that I want to do. I am fine just shaming them for having a chance to fix things and doubling down. But I think that that isn't, you're not reveling in having a relatively higher, amount of power against an indie. Like I think that is just a reflection of the reality.
Yeah. Yeah. It clings on my brain to say like, yes, resist the small people, don't resist the big people. But I do think that like, I'm not even saying don't resist EA. Like it's just make the decision for yourself if it bugs you.
Yeah.
Like in Greg's question, like, he's like, should I morally do this? Mm-hmm. And like, does it bother you? Will giving them money make you feel bad and impact your enjoyment of the game? Mm-hmm. That's you drawing your own line. I guess that is like the takeaway and the advice that I would have.
Right. Yeah, it all comes back to drawing your own line, and there are externalities to this too. Like I don't know, like maybe you can't delay something forever because the studio will go out of business because of their burn rate or something like that. There are like real business factors, but crunch is always a symptom of mismanagement. And in larger studios, what we are often talking about is bad business practices as opposed to with small studios, like doing something that is, offensive in a different, realer way. Right.
Yeah. There's a way bigger difference. Like the systemic way that games are made on that scale of the EA scale, where like, this is hundreds of people and thousands of man hours and millions of dollars, is a different set of problems than, hey, two of the guys on the Ion Fury team decided to put some transphobic and homophobic jokes in their game, and then when confronted about it, doubled down.
Right.
That's a totally different scale of problem. And one of those is a more defeatable problem, I think. So yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm all fired up now.
I don't know. I feel like I was kind of all over the road on that, but I don't know. It's something that I think about quite a bit.
Yeah. But, well, we weren't going to like make a cogent solving it conversation about ethics and game purchasing.
Right.
It's just like those are kind of scattered thoughts, but that's basically what I think that we were able to provide,
yeah,
or we're ever going to be able to provide.
It just sucks that this has been a problem forever. You know, like I remember back in the early 2000s, you know, when I first became aware of this, like from the EA Wives group, right? Or the EA Widows or whatever it was, where like just the wives of these developers came and said, yeah, no, I lost my husband to his job.
Yeah. And it reminds me of like, you know, police shooting black people as a thing where like this problem is not new.
Right.
We just awareness is raised.
Yes.
You know, there are cameras everywhere. Like, it's not like it's naive to say like, hey, crunch is this thing now.
No, it's,
you know, it's pretty ingrained as a thing. And there's Slime Ranchers, and there's like Scott Benson's the organization, the collective that he's part of. They helped found the Glory Society, I think is the name of that.
Yep.
You know, there are some rumblings of a different way.
Yeah.
But you know, the arc of progress bends slowly.
Yep. And it doesn't bend on its own. It bends through the effort of all kinds of people, you know, bending it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So, all kinds of pretty scattered, but hopefully you got something out of that.
Yeah.
You know, and if not, sorry.
Yeah.
We are really behind on topics. Last time we talked about doing a topic roundup. We mean it this time. So we're going to go and just kind of really lightning round a bunch of topics and put up an episode for our patrons soon. Yeah. We will have another one of these prompts in about a month. So look at our Patreon. These are always fun. Thank you, everybody, for asking.
Yes.
Questions. And now we're going to move on to your responses to January's games.
Yep. We have Dusk and we have Shadowrun. Nobody running about the cat lady.
That's a bummer.
I know.
It sparked some like lively conversation on the Slack, but I'm surprised nobody wrote in.
Yeah, that's fine. If you have thoughts about the cat lady, go ahead and send them in. We can include them as a late response, you know, down the line.
And we will if we like you.
Yeah. Well, if the response is good, I don't know.
Yeah. But if the response is dog shit,
but that's the case for everything. So I'm
just kidding. I said wear this hostile. I'm still all radicalized. I need to go watch Parasite in the cool down tent. Eat some more slices.
At the Duckfeed compound, there will just be a small viewing room that is always showing Parasite for when you get angry about capitalism.
When you turn around, it's Sorry to Bother You.
Yeah,
and it's just both those movies.
Yep.
Just kind of, you know, we'll just have a dedicated room to for all the different issues. Yep. Like, this is the Get Out room. Please join us in the Get Out room for when you're mad about how white people benefit from structural racism.
Right. Oh, Jesus. So Jacob writes in about Dusk. Why in the world it took me so long to play Dusk is beyond me. People describe this game by using certain words such as Lovecraftian, House of Leaves, Deus Ex, Blood, and Thief. All things I love, but unfortunately I'd forgotten about it somehow. It was like my brain couldn't process so much good shit all at once and blotted it out. Thankfully, due to this podcast, my mistake has been rectified. It's now one of my favorite games of all time. Thanks. Side note, I'm shocked that it was Gary, not Cole, who mentioned House of Leaves first.
It's just heading him off.
Also, I pull that punch a lot because I am already a parody of myself in a lot of ways. So I try not to add to the din. I just take it as read that reconfiguring spaces will work for me.
Glad you got into it. I found out a cool thing since we recorded that episode.
Okay.
The game that the Dusk fella is working on is the same game that I'd known about for a little bit that a guy named Taffer King or Jolly Rogers 99 on Twitter is working on, called Gloom World, I think is the name of it.
Okay.
And it looks like a stealth shooter thief-like in the 2.5D retro style. And it looks incredible. Like, I've been following it for a while, and I did not know that it was the Dusk guy's new project.
Oh, cool.
So extremely excited. Like, Jolly Rogers 99, Taffer King is somebody who, if you are an 0451 person, is really fun to follow because they appreciate those games in the same way, in the way that I resonate with. And a lot of them just like, hey, I just decided to replay Brigmore Witches. Here's a thread of pictures of wainscoting you know, from this really good Dishonored game. And I'm like, shit, that is good wainscoting. You know, they are really good at that. These are like the best environments in the fucking business.
Wait till he gets the crown molding thread, Gary.
Yeah. Like, hell yeah, dude. Way into it. So I cannot wait for that game. And it's a really, really exciting.
Cantilevered balconies beat still my heart.
Yeah. So the game has really great architecture.
I
man.
know.
Super good. Every once in a while, someone will just post like here, look at this wood grain from Dishonored. And I'm like, shit, that's really good wood grain.
Oof.
Look, that company is good. Alex says via contact. I was absolutely one of those people who kept pressing the R key out of reflex. Years of modern shooters have conditioned that kind of response. That playful little spin was a great reminder that Dusk isn't that kind of game. I still kept pressing R, but now I just get to do it for fun. Oh, and more games should let you do backflips. Agreed.
See our conversation about Tony Hawk being remade. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I add it onto the pile of games that have purely aesthetic buttons.
Yeah, the pet button, like the pet blob button.
Yes, the sing or whistle button in Transistor. Yeah. No. Yep. Mike says via contact, I replayed a bit of Dusk this month to coincide with your episode, and something I'm noticing, and apologies if you mentioned it on the show and I missed it, is how generous the game's hitboxes are, which I'm finding is a crucial component of why the combat works so well. Circle strafing is obviously an important factor in staying alive in Dusk, given that you can dodge any enemy projectile. So the fact that the game is so lenient about not having to be pinpoint accurate means you can divert that attention into staying on the move at all times. It's a small but critical balance that makes Dusk one of the most satisfying shooters in a long time.
Yeah, I think we missed talking about that in the show, but it's definitely something I've noticed through playing.
Yeah,
and it is awesome.
I don't know, and I don't know for my own preferences, it is more fun to dodge things than to shoot things. Mm-hmm. You know, so.
No, it's also I love when developers cheat in your favor. Like there was a big thread of those on Twitter a while ago.
Was so good.
Yeah, it's so fun. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's such a good feeling. Mm-hmm. You know, like all in BioShock, enemies missing. Mm-hmm. Always programmed to miss the first hit.
Yes,
that's so good. Like always cheat in the player's favor. Like it's like I love it. Mm-hmm. Dylan says via contact. Hearing you'd be covering Dusk made me pull the trigger on picking it up, and boy, am I glad I did. I'm generally on Team Gary when it comes to loving my systems-intensive games, but Dusk is a delightfully refreshing system-intensive game. System is capitalized. Dusk has one verb, and it does it extraordinarily well. Move shoot. No bells or whistles, just run and gun. I was delighted to return to the Quake days with what is arguably the best level design of its type. What surprised me most was how effective of a horror game Dusk is. It shows a mastery of the jump scare that puts most survival horror games to shame, and all with a low poly aesthetic. The first run-in with the Elk Beast damn near gave me a heart attack. Dusk is making a play for my game of the year, but as much as I love it, it's not perfect. It's a weird choice to put the 3 weakest levels at the end of the game, and the control scheme for Homecoming shows that the engine can't handle every idea. But the ride up until the chore of a final boss is still some of the best throwback gaming around. Thanks for getting me to play it.
Yeah, it's a good common story in this response is people saying, I had no idea this existed, and now I don't know how I live without it.
That's great. That was always, I was like, I'm going to convince you to try Dusk. Mm-hmm. I'm glad I'm doing my part to add some Dusk sales to the pile. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they don't do crunch. If they do, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Yeah. There's in the Slack also some people are complaining about the Homecoming level. I like the Homecoming level. I don't really the one with the gravity stuff. I think that if you died, if there's fall damage, it would suck. But the fact that you just kind of loop, like I think that actually works pretty well.
Yeah, the bummer for me was the motion sickness.
But sure.
Falling sideways is very disorienting, and I know that is the point of it. But yeah.
Yep.
Man, like the level design. I don't think anybody talks about this, so I can just say this: like top-notch level design and also top-notch sound design. Like that is so important for this kind of shooter, like mechanically, but also aesthetically as well.
Yeah. It's that's one of the things I just finished Death of the Outsider for Watch Out for Fireballs, and I just remember when it was like 2014 or whatever, and there's that famous piece of graffiti that was like, "It's the economy, stupid." You know, do you remember that?
Yeah.
I just feel like grabbing games and just be like, "It's the level design, stupid." Mm-hmm. Like that is the thing that you don't have. Like if your game doesn't feel like particularly good, if there's something missing, like that is probably the secret ingredient. Mm-hmm. This not being super good, and it is a common ingredient in games that are just like astounding and good.
Yes.
great level design.
Yeah.
Love it.
Ryan writes in via contact saying, Dusk is the first game that I have bought and beat after hearing it was coming up for WoF, and what a fantastic one to choose. After finding the super shotgun on accident in the first level and seeing enemies turn on each other from a wayward projectile, I knew the game would need to do a lot to make me not adore it. Thankfully, it never seemed to truly drop the ball, and missions like Ghost Town and Escher Labs made up for any shortcomings. 2 small notes regarding the episode. First, you are able to switch back to a single pistol or shotgun, or even from sword to scythe, by pressing the corresponding number while having that weapon out already. Second, there is an Easter egg method that makes the initial fight with the Guardian much less of a pain. You can telefrag him with the teleporter. I found this out purely by accident after a few deaths, and after realizing what had happened, I floated into the nameless city on Cloud 9.
It's a great phrase.
Yeah. Thanks for all you guys do, especially the increase in video content between the Duckfeed Memorial Dungeon Estate and Bonfire Side Chat Rewinds.
The two those are not intentional, but it is the name of the estate on accident.
Yeah,
the Duckford Memorial Dungeon Estate.
Yep. Yeah, you're doing a series of Darkest Dungeon Let's Plays on the Duckfeed YouTube channel, youtube.com/DuckFeed.tv.
And thanks everybody for watching those. The response has been really nice.
Yeah.
And I did not know that you could switch back to the single weapons, but that's interesting to know.
Yep.
And what a great tip for the Guardian, because that guy's a pain in the dick.
Yeah. And telefragging is always wonderful. I never intentionally did it in Death of the Outsider, but it's there.
It's actually a real weird kind of secret way to the envisioned. Mm-hmm. It brings them to their death state.
Oh, wow.
In one move, just for a little bit of health. So
nice.
That's something I discovered this playthrough. I'd never done that before, but I'm like, oh, that takes care of these fuckos. I thought to fight, but are kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, I never managed to kill one. I just avoided them. Yeah.
Before we do the episode, watch the death animation for them.
Okay.
It's immensely satisfying.
Cool.
Darren says by contact. I'm glad you both think Dusk slaps, bangs, and if I may so, whips ass. When I played through this new twist on a classic favorite, this is full of references. I encountered what I realized later was a stupid glitch before the penultimate boss, Lucas. I ran around that forest clearing beforehand, gathering Eldritch stones and filling up on ammo, expecting one final combat challenge before the credits. But when I stepped through the portal, I found myself dumped into a boss encounter with no weapons. So I immediately started backpedaling away in a circle around the edge of the arena. Lucas was doing his best to end me while I hauled ass, scrambling to think about how I was supposed to beat this bunny-hopping lunatic with an empty arsenal. After a minute or two, I noticed that some of Lucas's attacks would damage us both, with him slightly more so. Was this my strategy? To trick him into blowing himself up repeatedly? Cut to 15 minutes later. I'm still running full tilt backwards while he occasionally blows us both up a little bit. He's lost a third of his health. I've lost about a quarter of mine. Is the game trying to teach me that shooter protagonists are ultimately their own worst enemies? Unlikely, but even so, do I have the patience to keep doing this for another half of an hour?
Oh, wow.
Of fucking course not. So I pause the game and look at what I'm supposed to be doing. Finding seemingly nobody else online who suffered this glitch, I reload my save from the clearing before the portal, go through again, and find myself properly armed and dangerous, ready to properly murder this FPS protagonist this time. 60 seconds later, I'm fighting Nyarlathotep, and all is right with the world. I know this isn't abject suffering, but who is Cart Dog? The full of references.
Yeah.
That was just like me fighting the 2 golems in Jade Empire.
Uh-huh.
This is essentially what I was doing.
Yeah.
It sucked.
But I love, so like Lucas's fight definitely lasted longer than 60 seconds for me. Like you put yourself into this weird like training in double gravity mode of like dodging his attacks and managing, like figuring out how to manage his movement. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And by you, I mean Darren for this.
Yeah. Thanks, Darren.
Thank you.
Yeah. Moving on to Shadowrun returns responses. What does Eric have to say?
Yeah. Eric says,
or Shadowrun Dragonfall.
Oh yeah. Eric says, I played all 3 of January's games and expected the cat lady to be the one that depressed me. But when I came to the end of Dragonfall, I felt a real bone-deep sadness. I didn't feel good about a single decision that I made during the endgame, yet none of the alternatives sounded particularly appealing either. Even though I'd succeeded at my group's mission, I finished the game feeling small and helpless, knowing that even though I'd saved my community, the powers that be remained terrifying and untouchable. That's an emotional state that I feel constantly in life, but pretty much never feel in video games.
Yeah, Yeah, good observation.
Yep, good summation. Yeah, I think Shadowrun, is like a lot of cyberpunk in that is kind of what they're what they're aiming for a little bit.
Yeah, you should feel powerless in the face of capitalism in Shadowrun.
Yep.
So, yeah, and it is kind of like a bittersweet note.
Yeah,
at the end for sure. Riley says, Dragonfall is one of my favorite games, so I'm glad you finally got a chance to cover it. I love taking over Monica's role of helping out her crew and commune. That the crew are complex people, and just flattering Iger isn't going to work. And finding Monica herself wasn't some messiah, her solutions were often flawed, getting Kimmy addicted, and the fact that things start to fall apart without her. But by practicing mutual aid, helping to build things back up, and just caring for people, your little slice of the F state becomes something worth fighting for. It's a cyberpunk game that is firmly punk. The world may be a bleak capitalist hellscape where it feels impossible to make meaningful change, but those rebellious ideals are still ideals worth holding on to, and making things even a little bit better is still a good thing. As the saying goes, to change everything, start anywhere. That's a great saying.
Okay.
I've never heard that before. Finally, Dragonfall contains one of my favorite dialogue checks in any game. Adrian tries to cite the bombing of Hiroshima to support his plan of killing innocent people for the greater good. But with the academic etiquette, and knowledge of history, you can turn it around on him, pointing out that his example isn't actually true. As a historian, being able to swat down that common ahistorical argument and it actually helping me convince him felt great.
Yeah, I really liked hitting that check as well.
Yeah. It's also just like a wonderful encounter.
Yeah.
That philosophical end and stuff of that. Like, it's going to be a come down after. Like, Death of the Outsider is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, we have all bangers, this year so far on the schedule, like, basically. But, like, boy, there's that's stiff competition.
Yeah.
So, what a game.
We didn't really talk about Simi Kimmy.
Oh yeah,
but that is an amazing NPC and storyline. I didn't finish it with her because I didn't go to that part of the map very often. But like when I realized that she was talking to me, and I put together that she was Maria from The Sound of Music. Yeah, just the entire idea of BTLs in general. I'm way into.
Totally.
Yeah.
There's also a story I still learning things about this game, even though I played it 3 times and things. Somebody in the Slack was talking about how there's the dancer on the right, and they were like, make sure you put money in the tip jar every time. But interacting with her tip jar, I thought would be stealing from it.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't. And I just didn't end up doing it. So yeah, I guess there's like a storyline for her as well that I missed.
Huh, yeah.
So, yeah.
Good game.
Great game.
Yeah.
Fucking A.
Simone writes via contact. Dragonfall is one of my favorite games. The tactical combat is strong without being punishing. The main plot is full of so many twists and turns, but more than anything, I felt something for the companions. The dialogue requires you to really roleplay and think about who you're talking to. I felt the same nerves broaching a difficult subject as I did in a sketchy battle. It took me a while to get the hang of it, but when I finally advanced in my conversations with Glory, I felt immensely satisfied to earn her trust. When I had the opportunity to talk Marta down on Glory's loyalty mission, it felt like a huge kindness I could do for my friend. Convincing Dietrich that there was a path forward for him warmed my heart. I don't know how to articulate it other than this is the most invested I've ever been in companions. As much as I loved my Mass Effect crew, there was no Paragon option to spam here. They felt like real relationships. The soundtrack by John Everest is tasteful and evocative, and it holds up through a long campaign. Glory's theme still tugs my heartstrings, and as I type, I just cracked up hearing the theme of the theme of the Night Kings of Lightning Hold. God, that's a fucking ridiculous name.
Lightning Hold.
Lightning Hold, so good. He does similarly great work in BattleTech. The Harebrained Schemes games were my introduction to Shadowrun, and they made me a believer. I'm happy that they made BattleTech, but I'd love to see them return to Shadowrun regularly. If they keep making them, I will keep playing them. Thank you for covering this game in such detail, and I encourage anyone listening to try for themselves.
Yeah. I my understanding, somebody reached out to me after we did the episode and told me that I guess Shadowrun Hong Kong got released with an epilogue, which I've not played.
Okay.
So when I play I'm starting a new Hong Kong playthrough for Funzos.
Yeah.
And I do the epilogue, and the epilogue implies that Harebrained will come back to Shadowrun.
Oh,
like
shit.
it kind of talks about going to some of their other properties. Like, oh, like it would be, there's a little winky character who's like, yeah, it would be fun to go do this and fun to do this, but I think we'll always return to the universe, Shadowrun or whatever.
Yeah.
Just something that's obviously the developer talking.
Nice.
So it'd be really cool if they did.
Yeah. I don't know, man. My time with Dragonfall, like it's the only one of those that I played, but I trust that developer.
Yeah. Give me a Shadowrun Returns that takes place in Chicago, please. Mm-hmm. I would like a Bug City campaign now.
Yesterday, no delay. Crunch as much as you can.
Yeah. Yes. Listen, when it comes to me, the consumer and the main character of reality,
the only moral crunch is the crunch that I demand. I'm a gamer. I deserve a treat.
Yeah. The only moral crunch is Captain Crunch.
He goes down with the chip, chocolate chip, Captain Crunch.
That's pretty funny. The music is something that we talked about in the episode, but not quite as much as I wanted to.
Yeah.
When I edited the episode, like I was absolutely spoiled for choice. Mm-hmm. Like I ended up using Glory's Loyalty Mission theme because I love that one.
Yeah.
But it's so good. Mm-hmm. Like the soundtrack to that game is like nonstop awesome songs.
No, I've had I've had the soundtrack for all three of them actually, like running on YouTube playlists just around the house.
They reuse a lot of them. Mm-hmm. So like a lot of the music from Shadowrun Returns ended up in Dragonfall. Mm-hmm. So good shit.
Good.
Absolutely. And finally, Michelle here says via contact, hey guys, and then in parentheses, you are encouraged to read this in the Greg voice. So of course I will. I bought Shadowrun Dragonfall on a Steam sale a while back, but bounced off the first dungeon a couple times because I wasn't in the mood for isometric combat. When you announced it for WoF, I finally decided to dig in and really get my $3.74 worth. And I was not disappointed. It took me a couple of botched runs to realize I can't play this like a Bethesda game and try to talk my marks out of getting murdered. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just got to do what the contract says and put a bullet in a dude. And I really appreciate the game as a mercenary simulator. Mm-hmm. For most RPGs, playing as a mercenary just means give a sarcastic dialogue choice when you accept the mission and get an extra 150 gold for your effort. In Shadowrun Dragonfall, you actually have to roleplay as somebody who has a contract to fulfill, and going off book results in you losing out on your quest rewards, which is a pretty cool choice. Thanks again for giving me a reason to finally play this game, and I'm looking forward to diving into Shadowrun Returns and Hong Kong in the near future.
Yep.
Yeah.
See all of my gushing about playing as a professional in the episode itself.
Yep. Or in The Witcher 3.
Yep.
Baldur's Gate 2 or anything like that. Like good RPG developers give you a context for doing what you're going to do. Bad RPG developers do not.
Right.
They tell the Messiah to go gather herbs. So like it's there's other things those games do well, but like this specific, like, oh, this makes sense.
Yeah.
Is so fucking important. Mm-hmm.
So good.
If you have anything to say about February's games, which are, we want to hear your Atari memories. Mm-hmm. So Atari, we're concentrating on the 2600. Mm-hmm. If you have like a lot of hot Lynx or Jaguar takes, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Surprise us.
Surprise us. Death of the Outsider or XCOM, Enemy Within /Unknown. Hit us up by hit us up by February 15th.
Yep. Duckfeed.tv/contact. Remember that we like the responses to be brief and specific.
Yes.
Yep. Everybody did a good job on that here. Thank you.
Yeah, these are a great set of responses.
Yeah.
And it is time to announce March's games.
I think some people are going to be pretty happy with this.
I think so. I think some people are going to be desperately sad.
Really?
I don't actually think that. No.
Oh, okay. Okay. We don't have to do it, man.
No. So first up, we're one of the kind of soft goals, like in addition to doing a roguelike at some point for this year, is to do more indie stuff for the show. So the first thing we're doing is a pick from our patron Tara. We're doing Valdis Story.
Yeah. I was unaware of this game. This is a Kickstarter success, I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. Early Kickstarter success. That is a hybrid kind of character action Metroidvania game that is Will, I guess, has been. I told Will I was doing this. I was like, yeah, I've been trying to get you to play that for years. And the name just rolled off my tongue. It's pretty
Teflon-y. Yeah,
it's like the most Teflon-y video game name that I've ever heard. So like, I just that's the one.
Yeah, it's like Valdis Story, City of the Abyss or something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous name, but I'm looking forward to playing it.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to continue that theme a little bit because we're doing another patron pick. We've got Nicholas here who wants us to play Axiom Verge.
Yeah. The Metroid-like, not Metroidvania. It's a lot of Metroid DNA next to each other, but putting those together is kind of intentional.
Yeah.
It will be interesting to contrast something that takes a little bit of DNA from modern, Super Metroid games, Metroidvanias, versus one that is explicitly Metroid 1.
Yeah. And I'm down for a glitchy aesthetic.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks good. I bounced. There's a Check It Out Comrade where he talked about this. I bounced off it then, but my understanding is it has had some changes. In between now and then, and I also am now giving it a really serious run.
Yeah, so. And I know Jeremy Parrish loves it.
Oh yeah, it's supposed to be really good. I'm excited to play it. Yeah. And again, more indie. We have also a bunch of indie in the months after this as well. So make an effort to kind of cover a wider range of games.
Yeah.
And then finally, our premium episode for that is also a patron pick from Peter, and this is a real big one. The hits keep coming. We're finally doing Ocarina of Time.
Hi, The Legend of Zelda?
Yes, they were finally tackling the legend. For a long time, GameFAQs' best game of all time until Undertale came along and embarrassed us all. The best game of all time.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? However, this is something we keep talking about. Zelda games are a little bit like Metal Gear games or any of these big franchises where we're meting them out. We talked a lot about what Zelda game we want to do next. And it was we're either going to do Majora's Mask or Link's Awakening. But we decided that it would be good to do a game that is in conversation with so many other Zelda games.
Yes. Ocarina of Time is really a fulcrum. It is the fulcrum around which every entry in the series after it exists.
Yes. It's this is the rut.
Yeah.
But there's something to the first thing that makes the rut. I loved Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I have not revisited it. I'm a little worried about it just because I'm less friendly to that kind of thing, but it is really noteworthy.
Yeah.
It's extremely important to games. And it is interesting to just play the game that A Link Between Worlds and Breath of the Wild was ultimately reacting against. And they made a Link's Awakening remake because people were reacting about, again, what this turned into. People were nostalgic for what happened before.
Right.
This kind of became the codified, here's what our Zeldas are.
Yeah. And, to be entirely honest with you, this is our gateway to doing Majora's Mask, which is legit something that we have been wanting to do for an extremely long time. But we cannot do Majora's Mask without having the thing that it is an answer to.
Well, that and more kind of, to me, more key, we could, if we did Majora's Mask, it would be really unsatisfying to do Ocarina of Time.
Yes.
It kind of, doing Majora's Mask felt like cutting off that branch.
Yeah, cart and horse. And there's not a version of this show with this format, even, changed to be, even changed to be not necessarily retro, retro focused. We were going to do this. We were always going to do Ocarina of Time, and doing anything that would stop us from doing that wouldn't be too smart.
Yeah. And so I'm kind of surprised it took this long, but I'm looking forward to getting it. Really looking forward to revisiting it.
Yeah.
Looking forward to playing on the 3DS with the kind of quality of life changes.
Yes.
That'll come through. That's the version I'm planning to play. Yeah. And we have it's all hits after that as well.
Yep.
April and May is basically planned out, and it's all rad as hell. Almost all of these are patron picks.
Yes.
So people have been really generous. That's been great. Not to, I would never want to discourage people from doing that. If you have, a cool game you'd love to see us cover, please, hit us up there, because people have been really cool, really good with the picks.
Yeah.
And we've been, I'm really excited about this year so far.
Same.
And what we have ahead of
us. I got a sneak preview of a recent one that came in, and there's one in there that I'm really excited to do. So.
Oh yeah, is this the I was going to ask you about that after recording.
Yeah. So it's good. I really enjoy. It is made for a really cool run of shows for last year and this year. So
it's been really fun.
Yeah.
So thanks everybody. I think we plugged all the stuff.
Think so. Yeah. Patreon. Responses. Ratings, reviews, tell your friends. It's been a longer dispatch than usual, so we don't want to belabor this too much. We're just super happy to have you here.
Yeah. And keep an eye, if your question didn't get answered, specifically your discussion prompt did not get answered, keep an eye on that Patreon.
Yes.
So, and until next time, good night.
Good night.